What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Normal America Show. Host Rob Noor. Hope you're all having a great day. The title is not in reference to Gibbs. It's some guy who I've never heard of named Joe Overbroads, who has, well, let's see. He's got 67 followers. But he had a lot to say to me on X, and he wanted to call in a debate. Spoiler alert, he's not going to call. But it's all right. We'll do a show regardless. If he doesn't call in, he's supposed to call around 7 p.m. Eastern. He's got the link, so I'm a half hour early. Thought I'd do a little venting before. Some airing of grievances. So I saw Gibbs was saying that Connor, he put a little clip saying Connor admitting to being a eugenicist. Whatever. It's been an awkward day for me. More work woes for me. Last night I should have streamed, but I decided to have a squirt gun battle with my son, and I'll tell you about that in 1 second. And then we didn't really go spotting for deer because we came once it got dark. I don't know how many of you fellow rural Americans are out there, but if you're not familiar with spotting for deer, you get a spotlight, you drive around looking for deer. But we were deer looking until after 9 by the time we got home. So at that point, it was snuggle time with the family, and didn't really get to streaming. I apologize for that. No excuse other than I was just hanging out with my family. I'm sorry about that. So we'll do a show here tonight. Hopefully, I'll make it up to y'all. We'll do a good one. So I was trying to set up some debates. We'll talk about that in a second because I got some grievances to air. But this squirt gun battle. So the Easter Bunny was very generous to the Hank man when it came to squirt guns. He got several baskets from Easter Bunny, grandparents, all of that sort. One of the squirt guns he got's like it's a Triceratops, and it's got 3 barrels, so it shoots 3. And then we got a bunch just like the cheapo regular guys. So anyways, he was big on just having a battle, but he likes to be squirted as much as he likes to get you. So it's like we're teaming up, me, my mom, or me, his mom, and him. So it'll be her and him versus me, and then me and him versus her, and then me and my wife versus him. It was just good. Anyways, he came up with this game where it's quite creepy, maybe raising a little bit of a psychopath. That's all right. Where he would hold the squirt gun like this, and then we would have to stand in front of him, and then he would ask us a question, and whoever got the question right, the other person got squirted. So it's sort of like a firing squad type situation. It was pretty good. And some of the questions got pretty difficult because he was just like, first he'd be like 3 plus 3. And then he'd be like 3 and 3 and 4 and 7 and 9 and 11 and 7 and 6 and 4. So you're trying to memorize it like, and he's squirting you with the 3-barrel Triceratops squirt gun. So it was a lot of fun. It's neat how he comes up with these games. So I love hanging out with him, watching how his mind works. He's a great kid. So it was a lot of fun yesterday. Work stuff, not going to get into it, but it sucked today, as it always does lately. So still appreciate prayers for a person that I work with that's having some health issues. So I always appreciate it. So, all right, some grievances before we get started here. I don't even know what I should say about this. First off, this what's going on tonight was I made a comment on a post Destiny made on X. Of course, I can't directly respond to the post because Destiny has blocked me because he's blacklisted me because he gets tired of getting wrecked in debates. And basically, it has to do with Destiny's arguing with this streamer Asmongold. And he's calling Asmongold fascist adjacent. And this is something I love from the left. So many of these people on the left, they'll support what I would consider fascist policies. Like, for example, Destiny has called for the censorship of people he disagrees with multiple times, up to and including me. He's called for, in referencing me one day as a conspiracy theorist, said that they should ban all social media like that. He has said that Trump supporters are effing around and finding out if they get shot and killed because, hey, that's what happens. He's not cheering for it. He's just saying it's to be expected. He's made fun of firefighter Corey Compatore that died at a Trump rally. He was asked specifically by his co-host at the time, Pisco, if he wanted the bullet to kill Trump, to which his response was something to the effect of, I don't know what I could say because of terms of service. However, the worst thing that could happen was him firing in that bullet, not killing Trump. And so to hear someone like him say, Asmongold is fascist adjacent because he had some opinions on Trump's deportation policies. Yeah, I'm sorry. That criticism rings hollow from a guy who wants voices that aren't his to be censored, voices that he thinks are dangerous right-wing voices to be censored. Sorry. That says the worst thing that could happen was that bullet missing Trump. Sorry. I don't want to hear that guy complain about fascism. And of course, I made this post, and this person on X that claimed that they were a Destiny fan said that they would happily argue that position. In fact, we can go to the thread if you want. This is who I'm supposed to be debating this evening. Oh, where did this come up? Oh, good. There's more stuff I hadn't seen. So let's just go through the thread real quick. Yeah, go away. I don't want. This is garbage. Whatever. I would have responded to this post, but the coward Destiny's blocked me. He's advocating for censorship of those he dislikes. He said all Trump supporters get killed at a rally, have F around, find out. He said the worst thing that could happen was the would-be assassin's bullet missing Trump. He advocated for removing Trump from the ballot. He has the nerve to call people fascist adjacent. And it's interesting when people like him decry hypotheticals that his opponents may do, that they are actually already things the folks like he cheers for have already done. For example, he mentions Trump supporters cheering if Trump executes American citizens for arbitrary reasons. And yet, can you show me him refusing to vote for Obama or his party when Obama ordered the execution of American Al-Awlaki without due process? Of course, Destiny will say, that's different, as always, and say he means Trump executing people for different reasons. And this Joe person, let's find him. He says, have me on your show, Rob. I, like you, work full-time and would have the same opportunities for research time as you. I'm not clouded up like Destiny, but I can make his arguments for him. And I won't need ChatGPT to help me with my research. Let me know when and where. I say, sure, man. Next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern is the next time I'm streaming. DM me for a link. I'm glad you don't need ChatGPT like me. Will you be relying on your chat like your daddy Destiny? Or perhaps you will rage quit and spiral out of control like him. Look forward to seeing you there. He says, do we want to go line by line of your tweet, or do you actually have a prompt for conversation? I've seen you debate, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. To which I responded, you're going to make Destiny's argument about everything I said in my post. As a Destiny wannabe, I've no doubt you have plenty experience drinking from fire hoses, though. So that's it. That's the debate we're supposed to have. Oh, sorry. He, maybe he's ready here now. Then we'll talk about my other grievances after this. What's up, Joe?
Hey, friend, how are you?
Good. This is Joe Everbros, correct?
Yeah, it's Joe Ever. You can call me Jordan.
Jordan, sounds good. So you're going to defend Destiny line by line through the posts that I went through here, and you're going to defend Destiny's point of view.
Yeah, I'm going to defend Destiny's point of view through my own thoughts. As much as you claim me to be a Destiny wannabe, I'm a free thinking human being, so I can come up with my own arguments.
Well,
Um,
that's fair, but you would understand, like, when you say I could make Destiny's argument.
I am going to make Destiny's point, but like I'm, I've, as you, so elegantly put it, I'm used to drinking from the fire hose, so I know his points and I can make them, through my own words.
Okay, excellent. So let's go back to my I had it up here. Let's do this. Oh, real quick, let me read something real quick. Can you just I'm going to read something real quick. It's just a DM. I'm not going to read it out loud, but you want to tell people like who you are, just a little about yourself, and if you want to shout out a channel or anything, go for it.
No, I'm just a regular Twitter person who just likes to yell at streamers all the time. I'm actually really appreciated that you actually respond and actually want to have a conversation. So I don't have a channel. I don't have any kind of promotion to do. Just
Okay.
I used to follow you a little bit when you started talking to Destiny. I thought you made some good points, made some real good sense of some arguments. But I, like him, have thought that um, when Trump does his thing, you guys kind of dance along for him. So that's kind of where I kind of push back. It's I get disappointed when I don't see people I respect have critical thought about things that are happening. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay, fair enough. Would you say the general thesis? This is what I was trying to say in that post. You
Sure.
tell me if you disagree that this is you interpreted it. That Destiny himself has cheered for fascist-like behavior, and now it's hypocritical for him to condemn other people like Asmongold as fascist adjacent. Would you say that's a fair understanding of what my criticism was?
That is, yeah. That's how I took your criticism.
And so your response to me saying you could make Destiny's argument is you're going to say that Destiny hasn't cheered for fascist-like behavior, or you're going to say like what is the general thesis of
So
what your
my
claim's
for
going to be?
for me, the way I look at it is that he's correct and that the right would cheerlead for this behavior, and that the left in general, or I'm sorry, not the left. My apologies. Destiny in general is correct in that assumption, and then I am not aware of him making fascist-like adjacent statements, so I would need you to point to evidence of that. So, because, well, I mean, the way that you stated it in your tweet, if you want to kind of just go into it now,
Sure.
the way that you stated it in your tweet, let me just pull it up real quick because
I'll put it up on the
I don't want to misquote you, of
screen
course.
just so everyone can see as well, if you don't mind. I'll put it right up there. There we go. Go ahead. You can start reading if you want, or I can. It's up to you.
I'm just looking for it. Yeah, you can go ahead.
You want me to read it? All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Here's I'll read it again. I would have responded to Destiny's post, but he has blocked me. Destiny has advocated for the censorship of those he dislikes.
All right, we'll stop right there.
Yes.
So who has he advocated for censorship when you don't take into context people either going after him, mass reporting his stuff? So because the only two that I can think of from any kind of memory would be Nick Fuentes after he was mass reporting Destiny's stuff. He said, if these people are mass reporting me, then we need to make sure that his channel doesn't get shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other time was for the Hassan thing that's going on right now, but that was due to the banning Israel IP and all that other fun stuff. So if you have anything other than that, that's not really to me.
I do have other than that.
Okay,
but let's start with Hassan. Why isn't that what he advocate? You'll admit, without me having to dig anything up, you'll admit that he advocated for banning Hassan.
I don't think I've ever seen him advocate to ban Hassan. I think he points out the contradiction between how Twitch goes about.
I'm unaware of this Hassan. I will say that I think there's clearly a double standard with how Twitch treats Hassan. I wouldn't advocate for his banning, but I got a 30-day ban because Connor came on my channel and called me a homophobic slur like 12 times. Connor got a 7-day ban. I got a 30-day ban. Hassan gets a day and a half for basically calling for the killing of a U.S. senator.
Right.
It seems to be a different standard, but that's not. I won't say that that's Destiny if that's all Destiny said. I wouldn't say that that's advocating. I could point out two examples.
Sure.
One, I've seen him on one interview that he did recently. I saw the clip of it where it was talking specifically. I don't remember the exact people, but it was people in the vein of like your Dave Rubins, your Charlie Kirks, your Jack Posobics, saying that like we basically need to make sure that those voices aren't heard and that they should be removed for being damaging. The other instance was referencing me specifically, where he was doing a mobile stream in an airport, and he suggested, he was talking about me being clever and said I was a conspiracy theorist, and probably what we needed to do was ban all social media. And he even said that might even include him. Because we needed to listen to sort of proper forms of media. Both
right,
of
so
those are
that second one sounds super hyperbolic. I would also need to see both clips, because I like I said, Rob, I've watched it. I've kind of watched a couple of your debates as of late, and you like to kind of you like to misuse what they're saying or take things out of context, and that's kind of part of the problem with what the tweet is, because I feel like a lot of those tweets and a lot of those sentences were taken out of context, or you're taking what Destiny says out of context. So like, do you have those so I can?
Yeah, I will
over?
look for at least the clip about me. But while I'm looking for this clip, I would like you to explain in the recent things that I have talked about where you've seen me taking people out of context. You said recently you've seen me do that several times. Can you give me some examples?
Well, so this was I was watching your debate with Destiny from about 7 months ago.
Okay.
The one where you talked about hold on. You talked about your first conversation. So this was, I don't know if this was before or after the 5-hour chat GPT bullshit, but you jumped on a Twitter space with him and Pisco, and you were claiming that Destiny claimed that writing is the other side of voting. And when Destiny listened back to the clip that you were in reference to, there's really, you're kind of taking and he says that at the time of the debate as well too, you're taking a 2-hour long conversation, and if that is what you got from the 2-hour conversation, you're taking it not only out of context, but you're taking it without the rest of the 2-hour conversation, and that's just kind of what you're boiling down your points to. So
okay, so just to be clear, you would say anytime someone talks about one part or one quote from a multi-hour conversation, that because they haven't included the full 2 hours, that they're being disingenuous and misrepresenting a person.
I think you can do quotes without misrepresenting someone, but I think you not, if purposely or not, I'm not accusing you of that at all. What I'm saying is I just think that you misrepresent quotes, and you say that this
is... So then you'll acknowledge it would be fair game for someone to take a quote. It's just in this particular instance, I misrepresented what Destiny was saying.
I would tend to agree with that.
Okay,
yes.
So you must have watched that 2-hour debate then.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so how was it that I misrepresented Destiny? My claim was that Destiny was making the point that up to a certain point, it's okay to have rioting. I was specific in saying he didn't say against private property. He
Correct.
said against public institutions. He
Correct.
said if there was a lack of faith in public institutions, you think that they're screwing you over, that it's up to a certain level okay to use violence against them. And then he goes on to say, in fact, rioting and voting and rioting are two sides of the same coin. So where did I misrepresent? When I'm making, you'll admit that what I'm trying to say there is, Destiny, in the past, you've said that some amount of political violence against institutions is acceptable. It's like voting. It's getting your point across. You'll admit at least that that's what I was saying when I brought up that quote, correct? That's
well,
what I was
so I think that's what
say.
you're implying. I think that's what you're implying when
Correct.
you bring up that quote. But I also I don't necessarily agree with your summarization of the 2-hour argument, which I think that might be semantic. Like you may see the argument going one way, I might see the argument going another way.
No, that's fair. So we could at least agree on this. We could start from the position of, we both agree on what I was claiming he said. We agree with that. That he was saying that some, okay. So then you now know that that was a misrepresentation. You watched the 2-hour debate. So can you tell me what Destiny was really saying when he said rioting's the other side of the coin of voting? Go ahead and tell me what he was saying. Because you're saying that you watched
so hold on.
I wasn't misrepresented.
First off, real quick. I wasn't coming in here to talk about a debate from 2 years ago. So I can't go through the entire, we were talking about the here and now. So like, as much as I want to kind of relitigate the conversation, from what I'm saying is I'm using this as an example of how you can.
But what you're doing is you're using an example. You're saying, I have personally seen you misrepresent people. I say, can you give me an example? You bring up this example. I say, great, let's talk about it. You're like, I'm unwilling to talk about it.
No, that's not what I said. I'm not saying I'm unwilling to talk about it. I'm just saying that this is getting way off of where we were coming in here to. But if
I think you made an allegation of me that I misrepresent people. I think within the context of the conversation we're having right now, it's fair game for me to ask you to explain yourself. You made the accusation, so I want you into your own words.
It's in reference to your tweet. So like I said, because I don't want to get, but Rob, I don't want to get bogged down in relitigating something from a few years ago. What I
Okay,
want to
well,
talk
you
about
just admit
is
this,
what
that
you.
you're smearing me without evidence when you
I'm
say
not
that I
smearing you, Rob. You're
when
using
you
loaded
are you were
language.
making an use whatever term you want. You were making an accusation about me
But this is what you
misrepresenting
do.
people.
You use loaded language to make things sound way. So
What
maybe it's
language
not
would you what
misrepresentation,
I'll
but you
let you
load
use
your
your own
you
word.
load your language to
Okay.
make it seem like a certain way. So then this is but like this is what you just did. You just you're smearing me. No, I made a
Okay.
reasonable observation. So like just
You made what you consider to be a reasonable observation that accused me of misrepresenting people. You said that I do that regularly. You provided one example, and you have given no evidence whatsoever as how that was misrepresenting the person that you're claiming that I did. You have no evidence that that was a misrepresentation.
I just honestly, Rob, like I said, if you want us to go through the 2-hour conversation of that debate, then we can, but I would have to
You don't
go
have
back
to.
and
All
read.
you have to do for the purposes of right now is just
Okay.
give me your thought of what you think Destiny meant by that. You
I
watched
think
the
no,
2-hour
it's so I
conversation.
think it was very similar to what you said. What I'm saying is that you are loading the language that you use to make it sound way worse. So the same way that you just claimed that Destiny has advocated for right-wing social justice or social media personalities to be taken offline, yet you haven't given me a clip of that exact thing yet. First off, secondly, I haven't. You're using that loaded language of like I haven't personally seen this from Destiny, so like you can claim this, but like at the same time, I like it's probably taken out of context. I would be willing to bet.
Taking out of context is a different argument than I don't like the tone in which you said it.
It can be
Right?
part of the same argument.
Well, you
Your
can
tone,
say
well,
that, but that's
tonality is part of context.
do you
That's
think
part of
that
language.
you watch Destiny a lot, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think that do you ever criticize his tonality?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
But the
would you
problem
say
is is that we're willing to
let's
so this
pause.
is the
So
whole
would you
crux
agree?
of the
Let's
argument.
pause.
No,
Let's
hold on a
pause.
second, Rob.
Let's
This is the
pause.
whole crux of the argument is that I'm willing to criticize my
No, you're
person
not.
that I talk about politics with, the person
No,
that talks politics, but you guys aren't willing to criticize a president of the United States who is a 34-time convicted felon, who is literally throwing our economy into the shit right now. So like there's other like you see where the paradox is here,
I
Rob.
do see the paradox.
This is my frustration is that you hold my streamer to a higher standard than you hold your presidential candidate of the United States.
I
So
see
like
the paradox. I see the
you see
paradox here.
that like
So
how that's
I do. I see
really
the paradox that when hampered down on a specific accusation you made about me, you can't defend it. So you
okay.
have to tone police it and say, well, actually, what you said was accurate, but I didn't like the tone of which you said it.
I
Then
never
when I
said it
ask
was
you, do you
accurate. I said
make
it was
these
out of
criticisms?
okay.
Do you make these criticisms? For example, I would argue that Destiny has a harsher quote tone every time he's quoting JD Vance or RFK or Donald Trump. Do you sit there and go, I don't like the tone. I feel that Destiny's misrepresenting Trump. I feel that he's misrepresenting JD Vance. He's accurately repeating what they said, but I don't think tonally he's doing it in the right way. That's an argument you make frequently?
No, because that's a silly ass argument.
Right, but that's the argument you're making against
No,
me.
that's not the argument I'm making with you at all.
Okay.
I'm just saying that you use loaded language to take a situation and you apply your words to it the way that I would just disagree. If you want to call it tone policing, Rob, you can call it tone policing. But I've never once seen Destiny do anything crazy about RFK or Trump that they literally haven't said for themselves. They quote him directly.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I quoted Destiny directly. You said that you think that I'm misrepresenting him by tonally loading the language. Can you explain to me how I loaded the language when I read the quote that Destiny said that voting and rioting were two sides of the same coin? So
I'd have to go back and watch the.
But why? You already have your mind made up that I was misrepresenting him.
Because I like to use facts. I like to use what the situation is. I'm not just going to speak on something that I may not.
But you did. You already definitively said that it was misrepresentation.
Okay.
Okay, so you have definitively made up your mind. So what made you come to that conclusion? When I press you on it, you're like, well, yeah, he did say that, and that's basically what he meant. But I don't like the tone. I think you use loaded language in how you talked about it. So what was the language I used on that?
Yeah, so I honestly, to tell you the truth, Rob, I don't even think he said writing was the other side of voting. I don't even think that's something he said. No, because you have me second guessing. But I'm watching the clip back. I literally watched it yesterday. I don't believe that was ever part of the conversation that you two had. It was the implications of the conversation that you had, but at the same time, those words never came out of his mouth. So if you have that as well, I'm still waiting on the two other clips.
Sure. Okay, so now I just want to be clear. When I provide these clips to you, are you going to admit you're wrong?
It depends on the context of the clips.
So you're good. So you just said he never literally said those words.
That's not
That
what I
were-
said at all. What I said
So
was you
you
haven't
just said, I
provided
don't
the
think he said
examples.
those
I
words.
said I've never heard him say that. But
That's
again,
not-
I don't sit here
but
and
now
watch
you're
Destiny 10.
backtracking.
No, that's not backtracking, Rob. That's
I'll
exactly
explain
what
why
I
once you
said.
finish.
That's what I said.
Okay, the
what I
reason
said
that's
was,
backtracking, didn't you say that you were watching the space?
and by the way, we're not even talking about what the tweet you tweeted about. Just
We'll
want
get
to
to
point
there.
that out.
Are you in a
that we're
hurry?
not even like at where
Are
we
you
need
in
to
a
talk.
hurry?
Well, I'd like to get there tonight.
Don't worry, we'll get there. You're making
Oblivion just
accusations.
released. I kind of want to go back and play my game.
We're making accusations about me.
Oh,
I'm defending those
boo-hoo.
accusations.
Okay.
I'm not boohooing about it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
are
asking-
boohooing about
I'm
it. Just
not.
move on. Let's just talk
I'm
about
not-
the next part.
I'm not boohooing about it. I just want to be clear. Now, you said that you watched Destiny on that Spaces. Now, I know the clip because Destiny was supposed to be listening to me on the Spaces, but what he did was you're watching from Destiny's channel, correct?
Yeah,
And you know what he did.
You went on and listened to the clip to make sure
Right.
that's what
And
you
so
said.
you listened to Destiny on that Spaces. Go back and listen to his previous conversation with me, right? And you're saying that when you were listening to Destiny, go back and re-listen, he never said the words, or you didn't hear on his channel him saying those words, rioting and voting are two sides of the same coin.
And like I said, when I went through the 2-hour conversation, because I'm limited on time, I listened to that 2x and I did not hear that. So if you have that clip, then hey, listen, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. You know, it's crazy. I can do that in front of a bunch of Trump supporters, but Trump supporters can never admit when they're wrong. And that's the whole purpose of that tweet that you made and the conversation that we're supposed to be having right now.
The purpose
is that
of
the whole purpose of what Destiny said in his tweet and what he was getting at with Asmongold, which is the original reason why I came in here, was because he's correct in his assumption that you guys will defend any kind of move bilateral, any kind of thing that Trump does, you guys are going to defend. And you have yet to show that you guys.
All right, two things. I'll answer
that.
this in two ways. One, you weren't here. Your claim was never, I'm coming on here to defend Destiny's tweet to Asmongold. You even specifically
so if we're
say,
gonna play semantics,
let me finish.
let me finish.
Conversation. Let me finish. You literally say, are we just going to go line by line through your tweet? My criticism of Destiny, as you've already agreed, is Destiny accuses other people of being fascist adjacent while he has himself cheered for things that would be what I would consider fascist or fascist adjacent. Okay. Your response to that and saying that you would be able to defend Destiny's argument for him was, well, I think Destiny's right about let me finish.
His argument about Asmongold.
Again,
that's what the implication of the tweet says. You're criticizing his tweet about Asmongold. So I was coming.
The way this has to work is I'll give you a chance to speak. You give me a chance to speak. Okay?
Go ahead.
The audience can't hear if we're both talking, right? So when you specifically say, you said in response to my tweet, I could defend Destiny's position. I said, great. You then literally say, or do we want to prompt, or are we just going to go line by line through your tweet? I said, we're going to go through the accusations I made on my tweet. You said, okay, I'll be there, right? And so now when we're going to do that and you're making other, you're defaulting to, well, but Republicans won't criticize Trump. So that's one. Number two is, yes, Republicans will criticize Trump. I do it all the time. Can you show me Destiny
criticisms of Trump? Because I've never seen you do it. So name 2 criticisms of Trump that you have right now.
Right now, or that I've had since he's been president since 2016?
Let's just do right now.
Okay,
Trump 2, so much stuff is happening.
I think that it's clear that the way he's invoking some of this deportation policy is to protect Israel. I think it's disgusting.
Wait, how is it to protect Israel?
What are you going to let me? Because it's saying that he's going after people for basically speech that is more critical of Israel than he would any other country, including people in this country. So in other words, you could on campus say you hate white people and they're not going to threaten to deport you. You could say we hate Christians and they're not going to threaten to deport you. But if you say we hate Israel, they would threaten to deport you. That's number one, right? Number two, you have people like Jensen, I forget his first name, but this Jensen guy that's being appointed, that was absolutely terrible. It's like this pro-January 6th thing. Number three, I criticized heavily his meme coin shit and thought that that was ridiculous and said it was childish. Number four, I criticized all sorts of the spending that he's put forth, that he was favoring the Republican spending bill and was going after people like Thomas Massie. Number five, I criticized him praising people like Lindsey Graham, who I think's a war hawk that he needs to run from. Number six, I think he's making the exact same mistakes, putting people around him that are pro-war and pro-establishment. And so it's not draining the swamp. It's actually helping embrace the swamp. Now, can you show me 6 criticisms that you or your boy Destiny made of Joe Biden going into the election?
I can give you 6 or 7 or 10 criticisms of Joe Biden right now if you'd like.
When he was
unlike
running,
you, I was supporting Nikki Haley in the primary because
when he was president, that you were making during the election versus him and Trump.
Yeah, I can give.
Okay, let's hear them. And how about
criticisms of Biden?
You could make them, but I also want you to tell me the ones you heard Destiny make. Go ahead.
For criticisms of Biden.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Or
one
Kamala when she was running. Take your poison.
Wow. All right. So I mean, I can give you a little bit of both if you like. So I
Sure.
think for Kamala, I think that her not having a sister soldier moment was an incredible mistake. I think she should have put herself further distance away from the Palestinian crowd, because I feel like you're in a kind of a no-win situation there. So I feel like you need to do what I believe the voter base would want, which are more heavily favored towards Israel than they are towards the Palestinians. So that's for Kamala on her. I think some of her campaign stuff, I think she let Republicans dictate to her too much about what her policies were, and versus actually going on the attack for what her policies were truly are, even if I disagree with them, because I do disagree with most of them. Like I said, if Nikki Haley came out of the Republican primary, I would have voted for Nikki Haley. But like at the same time, yeah, for Biden, I think he didn't go far enough in the Middle East. I think that he was too gentle on Iran. I think he was too gentle with Yemen. I think he was too gentle with pretty much that entire region. I think he was too gentle on Russia. I think that there should have been more involvement with the United States at an earlier point in time with the Ukrainians. So a lot of my issues that I have with Joe Biden are a lot of foreign policy issues. A lot of his domestic policy, I mean, I agree with a lot of what he was aiming for. Do you not like chips and science? Do you not like us working on infrastructure? Do you not like us trying to bring down the inflation with the Inflation Reduction Act? You know, the only way to bring in more revenue for the government is to hire more IRS.
Right. You're talking about things you like. Cool.
So what I'm saying is that I can do this too all day. I can make criticisms of my own side. So like
you can't. I named 6. You named 2 of Biden, and then started talking about things you liked. Did you or Destiny criticize his obvious cognitive decline?
Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, I also said that I would vote for a corpse over Donald Trump. So like what I'm voting for with Joe Biden, and you have just accurately put in one of your criticisms for Trump, is that I'm not voting for Biden. I'm voting for the people that he puts around him, because the people that he put around him led us to having the lowest inflation out of all G7 countries. So like there's successes that you can point to, and if you want to criticize Trump for putting the idiots around him, well, unfortunately, I'm a manager for my life. That's what I do for work. But if I put idiots around me, my boss is going to come to me and say, "You're putting idiots around you. This is on you." So you
I didn't hear any Destiny making. I'm not saying Destiny didn't make those criticisms, but I didn't hear you say, "Sure, I heard Destiny say this." Number 2, right? The idea that like it's about the people that put around. You just said the comment that's basically going to disprove your entire and Destiny's entire thesis of Asmongold, which you said I would literally vote for a corpse over Donald Trump. So when the criticism,
Donald Trump is a 34 time
notice how I
there's a difference.
Notice how I let you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
and now I'm talking.
Go ahead. I apologize.
Do you think you'll get a chance to respond? If I've been fair?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Right. So when the criticism of Asmongold seems to be like, oh, you and other Trump supporters would just accept any garbage he throws at you, not like us who would vote for a corpse over your guy. And now I could hear what your argument's going to be. I could have predicted what your argument was going to be. Right. As I said, what Destiny in my tweet, I said what Destiny's argument would be. You know what that is? Quote, that's capital D different. That's always your argument. When our side does it, it's different. See that? When I said about Obama executing Al-Awlaki, not giving him due process, I said, what will Destiny say? Hashtag, that's different. And that's exactly what you. No.
If it's different, though, but if it is different, then I don't understand what.
When we say we would vote for anyone, no matter what, even if they were a corpse under Trump, that's different, because we have the right to say that because your guy's so bad. But you guys are terrible because you always vote for Trump and you won't criticize him. It's literally the same. You're projecting your own beliefs. When if you followed me, you know Trump wasn't even my choice in the primary. You know that I criticized Trump heavily in his first term for a litany of things. And you know that I've criticized Trump heavily. And I'm tired of people like you and people like Destiny who were unwilling in real time when it mattered to call out Joe Biden and to say, wow, these are things that would diminish him going into this election. I'm tired of what did Destiny say? Go ahead.
All right. So it not only is it Destiny, but the entire Democratic Party pushed out Joe Biden and put in Kamala Harris. So your whole argument here doesn't make any sense, because the Democrats were willing to criticize Biden enough to replace him. Do you not think Trump has the same mental decline decline that Biden has, the way that he talks, the way that he moves, have you not seen the way that his body slants forward? And that's just an obvious sign of dementia. Like there's things that you can point to for Donald Trump where it's the misspeaks. I mean, his points are so effing retarded that any 5-year-old could repeat them. I mean, like tariffs, I love tariffs. Tariffs are the greatest word ever. Like, okay, so if he's not saying anything hyper intelligent, he's always going to sound like an idiot. So what does it matter? That's where it's like the inconsistency comes up. Where you're like, oh well, it's capital D different. But like your guy has senility issues as well too. So your whole crux of that argument, again, Democrats saw senility issues inside of Biden. As soon as they saw it on a public stage, in a public setting, after the debate, they got rid of him and they put in Kamala Harris. So
One, like there's not even remotely a comparison to Trump's old age versus Biden. It's
okay,
not
I'll
even
send you
remotely.
something afterwards.
It's not even remotely comparable.
That's
Second,
you're not being fair about
again. Why is it that I'm capable of sitting here and listening to you say your piece and you're unwilling to do the same for me? Why is that?
Because I'm retarded, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I would say that it shows weakness in your argument, and you know that if I'm able,
weakness in my argument,
right? I would say that I would say that it speaks to you being insecure about your argument because you need to interrupt me in hopes that people don't hear me to disprove your argument. If you were confident in your argument, you would allow me to go unfettered. Now, I'll finish my point. It's not even comparable, the decline that we saw between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And second, you answer your own point when you say, well, once it became public, yes, we now see that people like Jake Tapper and many others are out there saying, we knew for years, the signs were there. Oh, my goodness, it's outrageous how this was hidden. They only brought it up once the entire world saw it. That's when they brought it up. When the entire world saw it and they had no choice. They could no longer gaslight the American people. They then said, uh-oh, because they're not really journalists. They're just propagandists that are interested in their side winning. And so they said, oh, geez, we don't want Trump to win. So now we have to push Kamala Harris and force Joe Biden out, which I'm glad you admit they did that because I thought that I heard Destiny and others saying that that wasn't what happened, that this was democracy. So I'm glad that you're admitting that actually the Democratic voters didn't have a say in it. Actually, they were gaslit. They were gaslit by the Democratic establishment and media about Joe Biden's mental health. They all knew that he was severely declined mentally, and they covered it up. And then once they could no longer cover it up because the American people saw it and the primaries were done, they installed Kamala Harris, who no one voted for in the Democratic primary.
All right. So do you watch CNN at all?
Yes.
You do.
Yes.
So how can you watch CNN the same way that I do and not hear at least the Republican strategists, but there's a lot of Democrat ones on there too that we're talking about. I've been hearing about Biden's senility now for 2+ years. So like I hear what you're saying about how you feel like, the propagandists in CNN and everywhere else have pushed down that story, but anytime anyone was willing to have that conversation was had. And nobody has that conversation about an equally. All right, so if you don't want to say he hasn't declined as much as Biden, well, that's fine. But nobody's had that conversation once about a 78-year-old Donald Trump. Again, like I said, the double standard for what is acceptable for Trump versus what is acceptable for Biden is ridiculous. So because like I said, I watch CNN just as much as the next guy, and I've heard, and that's what used to make me irritated, is because Democrats are way too willing to criticize their own, and it allows the Republicans to criticize Democrats criticize Democrats, and nobody's there to really truly defend them. So the whole like CNN is the liberal puppet. I wish they were liberal puppets. That would be nice, because then we would actually have a news network that actually pushed liberal propaganda versus the slop that I see come out every day from that news network. So,
number one, I think you're fundamentally misleading people. What happened? You could try to rewrite history about the cover up. Please let me finish. Yep. You could try to rewrite history on how almost the entire DNC apparatus, including much of the mainstream media, covered up Joe Biden and the significance of his cognitive decline. Now you're also trying to rewrite history saying, oh, and they'll never say anything about Trump for that. I remember back when CNN circa 2018, 2019 was demanding medical files of Trump being released, claiming that Trump's personal doctor was a liar, demanding that he be removed under the 25th Amendment. They were demanding after Joe Biden was released. people on CNN, people on MSNBC, people in the New York Times, people
Okay.
in the
I don't.
Washington
I think
Post,
you're
people in the
misleading people
Democratic
right now, but
apparatus,
that's fine.
right? So they were doing all those things.
You just want the
One of the
medical
Democrat
records of the
talking points,
president.
please, one of the Democrat talking points immediately after Joe Biden was forced out by the Democrats was actually it's Donald Trump who's too old and he has cognitive decline. So it's not true that people haven't been talking about this. The other thing is, I'll ask you a question, and I know that you'll try to meander on. So if you can, just keep this answer a little succinct because I have a point to make. Who is the person that you think would be considered like of all the sort of hosts on CNN that you would consider as like the most influential and considered like down the middle politics guy?
I'd probably say, for me, I mean, you're gonna make fun of whoever I pick, but
Well, no, I'm just asking in general. Who do you think would be the biggest guy?
I think it's Caitlin Collins. I think she is very, very good. I think
I
she is.
disagree. I don't
Oh,
think that was who most
see,
people. No. I'm not saying that to be. I don't think that's
she
who
came
most
from Trump world. She tries to play it as down the middle as she possibly can.
I would say most people would say Jake Tapper. That's sort of their big name. He tries to put himself out there as like, look, I'm not trying to be hyper partisan. Would you say that's fair?
Well, okay, so for the normie, yeah, I would probably say
Okay,
Jake
that's
Tapper.
what I was asking.
Okay,
So
my bad.
if it's true that Jake Tapper, who's probably maybe you could argue Anderson Cooper was like the biggest name on CNN, I would argue Tapper was bigger than. Do you think that's
They're
fair?
probably the same. They're probably the same.
Okay.
I would probably say they're the same.
So can you explain if CNN was always covering about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, why is Jake Tapper now putting out a book called Original Sin about the subtitle President Biden's Decline? It's cover up and his disastrous choice to run again. If it's true, what's the cover up if Jake Tapper himself was covering it? Why is he in the book all of a sudden talking about, oh, well, we talked to these people from, whistleblowers from inside the Biden White House that were like, here's how we were covering it up. And we talked to media professionals that are like, oh, here's how we were denied access. Why is he saying that? If you're arguing, no, actually CNN covered it the whole time. Why is Jake Tapper lying now?
Well, so no, what I said was they had Republican strategists and Democratic strategists on who did talk about Biden's decline. So if he's talking about cover up from Biden's administration or whatever, then I can't argue on that because I probably would agree that the Biden administration kept Biden away from the public way more than somebody like Trump.
It was a cover up. It was a cover up, and the media was involved in it.
Okay,
and just fine. Because they would
where's the proof that the media? I guess we'll just have to wait for Tapper's book to come out so that we both can read and see what it is. But like, where's this grand conspiracy when you apply something is covered up? There's people doing things to obfuscate what is actually happening. Where's this grand cover up versus Biden just wasn't available for the public ever because they knew he was loopy, so they decided just to not put it. Why play to a weakness and put him in front of a freaking camera?
I mean, this is just the classic lefty meme of source. Everyone that lived through it.
Oh my God! Because I ask you for a little bit of more information.
Let me finish. Jesus. It's the classic lefty meme of source. We all lived through in real time, watching them cover up. Remember the cheap fakes? All of these videos of Biden looking disheveled and diminished. Those are cheap fakes. Remember when we saw, for example, the Her report came out and the Democrats and people on CNN, when part of the Her report said, actually, we couldn't charge him for these crimes because a sympathetic jury would say that he was like a doddering old man with memory issues, right? But let's just take one example of where the cover up
was covered, by the way, wall to wall, just FYI.
Please, yes, covered that was a lie, that he wasn't diminished. That's what the point was. And last thing I'll say is if you want one example specifically, since you're going to yell source, how about George Clooney doing the fundraiser with Biden, where he specifically never came out and said that he was diminished. Only after they were trying to force Biden out after his disastrous debate performance did George Clooney write an op-ed in the New York Times saying, yeah, we all saw it. All of us saw it at this fundraiser. And then other people started speaking up and saying, yep, at previous events, we saw it too. It's just they weren't going to say anything while Biden was still running because to them, the truth was less important than preventing Donald Trump because them, like you, would vote for a corpse before they would vote for Donald Trump. And that's why the entire criticism that you're defending here of, oh my goodness, Trump supporters won't criticize Trump is laughable considering you guys were literally propping up a corpse or someone with severe cognitive decline because beating Trump was that important. You are literally accusing the others of what you yourself are doing.
Okay, so again, when the Her report came out, I watched CNN and I was irritated by the coverage because the only thing that they were covering about the Her report was Biden's senility. So I hear what you're saying and I hear the little world that you are in, but you and I seem to be in two separate worlds, and that seems to be the issue with like Trump voters versus like everybody else. So I hear what you're saying, but I disagree. I disagree that their coverage was as bare as you claim it to be.
Then why is
If I
Jake
switched,
Tapper
so
writing
if
this
I
book?
well, hold on. If I switched over to Fox News, another mainstream media source, they talked about Biden's senility 24/7, and that actually Fox News is a bigger news network than CNN. So
Why is Jake Tapper lying now, writing this book?
I never accused him of lying.
Well, wait, he's saying that there was a cover. The subtitle of his book is The Cover-Up. He's saying there was no cover-up. You're saying there was no cover-up.
I said that there's no proof of a cover-up. That's what I said, Rob.
I would say that. I guess I'll just say that the very
cover-up.
network that
When you accuse someone of doing something, you need proof. Lack of proof does not make an accusation. Like that's not like.
All I can say is I've personally seen the quotes on places like X, the quotes on places like CNN, the quotes said by Jake Tapper and other places, quotes from people that he's saying are inside the administration that are now coming forward saying that evidence of Biden's cognitive decline was as far back as 2020 and 2021. There were people quoted as saying they couldn't believe that he decided to run because they saw this as far back as 2020. There are people giving specific examples of events that were occurring, like certain speeches he gave with foreign leaders, etc., where things were going on that troubled them significantly. And when you say, you brought up CNN, and so when you bring up that network and you agree, yeah, probably their most influential person, it's a tie between Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper. And so the tie for the most influential person at CNN is literally like, there was a cover up. And now you're saying, I don't see evidence of that. I'm just saying, it looks suspect. You could say, I understand it's unfortunate we live in a world where we could both go through reality and you'll say, of course, I heard everyone on the left constantly criticize Joe Biden for his cognitive decline. And I'm going to say, no, they covered it up. I don't know how we could get past that.
That's what Democratic strategists, that was their number one complaint of Biden, was his inability to take the fight to Donald Trump in a cognitive sense. I understand that you're not in Democratic strategist corners and you don't follow Democratic strategists, but I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there was strategists all over the place when it came to any kind of election stuff that was talking about his mental decline and his deficiencies when it came to challenging Donald Trump. So
I don't believe you.
That's fine. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. That's fine.
I'm completely aware that they may have behind the scenes been saying this is our weakness. They may have been saying this is our weakness,
that's evidence of not having a cover.
But they're not saying that it's true. They're saying this is what they're attacking us on, but it's not true. These are deep fakes.
I never heard them say it's not true.
People like Elizabeth Warren that was out there saying he's sharper than me. People than Pete Buttigieg was saying when we're talking with engineers and stuff, we can't keep up with Biden. He's sharper than us. Elizabeth Warren was just asked on a show she was on the other day, are you literally saying that he's sharper than you? And she was so obviously lying. She just smirked and was like, yeah, can we change the subject? Because she knows she's lying. And I'm glad that you still fall for it. Now, let's go to some clips. Now, I don't have these timestamps. So what I'm going to need you to do is, can you see my channel? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, and let me know. I'll start playing audio, and you let me know if you can hear it, because I'm still working out the kinks with StreamYard, so it'll be pretty dumb if I play the audio clip and you can't hear it. So let me start, okay?
Did you start the clip? Because I can't hear anything.
Could you hear that?
No, I can't hear anything.
You couldn't hear that. Could my audience hear that? No audio. Okay. 1 second. Let me, okay. I think I see the problem. Sorry. That is my mistake. You win this battle. Let's try this again. Now, let me know if you can hear this.
Explicitly says that, like, if you're going to protest,
I see it.
You're to certain guidelines that you don't spread COVID-19. She said that about both protests.
Okay, you could hear that? Okay,
right. So you could turn it up, and you could turn it up like a smidge.
I'm quoting. All right. I don't know that I could turn it up anymore, but
all right,
I'm going to look for this.
I'll just listen real hard. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to find against my political opposition if you want. That is not how this country is supposed to work. Like, the Bill of Rights is aiming for.
Isn't going to be there in a month or 2 or 3. Bullshit.
Technically, we could be doing more to fight racism, so the protests aren't necessary.
Well, but the problem is we're not fighting racism.
and we're not providing stimulus and stuff like you said.
Sure, and if people want to go out and protest for that, then amen for them as well. If they want to go out and be like, this is bullshit, like we can't survive because we're not getting the stimulus we need, people can go protest that too. I think they probably will be at the ballot box next election cycle, of course.
So, in other words,
So can you stop it right there, Rob? I just want
Yes.
to make a point.
Yes.
So like he's saying protesting here, and so when I say you're loading your language, you said rioting. So like that, there's a difference between a protest and a riot. I know that that's hard for you January 6th deniers, but there is a difference between riot and protesting. So if that's part of the clip, it just popped up, so I just wanted to make a comment.
Right.
So,
we would agree. We would agree that there's a difference between a peaceful protest and a riot, just like you people that denied the riot said, but it was mostly peaceful as fire was burning. We see that. We see that you people that were silent or said it was mostly peaceful. We were. How many Trump protests were mostly peaceful then? Would it be fair to say
probably a good deal of them, probably right. if not all of them.
So then can you explain to me why you would why you just brought up January 6th there if most of Trump's protesters were mostly peaceful protests?
No. I said most of Trump's protests. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say protesters.
Okay,
that was my bad. I misheard
how about both?
You say that.
So your answer changes. So most of Trump's
yes, so if we're talking about January 6th, yeah, that was insurrection.
No, wait. I just want to be clear.
So just
when I said you thought I said most of Trump's protesters, and you admit most of them are peaceful.
Most of Trump's. Sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying.
Right. You originally, I said, were most of the protests for Trump, were they peaceful? And you said yes. And then you said, oh, I didn't think you said protests. I thought you said protesters.
No, I thought you said were most Trump's protests peaceful. Is that what you said?
Were they mostly peaceful?
Mostly peaceful. I'm not aware of any Trump protest, like in favor of Trump or against Trump.
Protesters that were on the side of Trump.
At January 6th specifically, or just in
Why
general?
would it be at January 6th?
I'm just asking. At January 6th or in general.
People that took.
Yeah, I'd probably say most Trump protests are peaceful. Just like how I would say most of the protests for Black Lives Matter was peaceful.
Cool.
But that's not.
So then, why focus on January 6th?
I thought you were saying January 6th protesters. That's why it was a misunderstanding on my part.
The point I'm trying to make with this is when we talk about, hey, look, there's a riot in Philadelphia right now by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And the response is, but most of Black Lives Matter and Antifa are peaceful. Yeah, okay. And you just said like 3/4 of them. Great. No one gives a shit about those. Right. According to a study that was cited, I think it was in Stanford, that's used for the mostly peaceful 2/3. It was actually, you're underselling it. It was 93% of Black Lives Matter were peaceful. In fact, they only found 233 locations of violence that occurred in the Black Lives Matter protests. Now, I'm not very good at math, but that averages to more than 4 cities per 50 states. Now, keep in mind, those protests weren't just how many protests were violent. Those were how many locations had violent protests. So if we take a place like Portland that had 80-something days of violence, that only counts as one in that number. So when you say, well, most of them were peaceful, that's sort of irrelevant. Yes, I live in a small county called Clarion County. There was a small, like 12-person attended Black Lives Matter protest here. Remarkably peaceful. No one had a problem with it. In fact, the only problem I had with it was the same people on Facebook that were bragging about going there were freaking out when other people were leaving their house because they may spread COVID, which seemed a little selfish. It was okay for them to go out and protest for their thing, but I couldn't go to my work or I couldn't go buy groceries without these people getting upset. Nonetheless, I'm making the point that your argument that, well, yes, 75% were peaceful. Great. I concede. I'm talking about the 25% that were violent.
Okay. So what was the point of this?
The point of it was when you wanted to bring up January 6th and say,
oh, no, I brought up January 6th by mistake. I know that January 6th breaks your conservative's brain, but like,
no, it doesn't break my brain.
Yeah, it does break your brain because I literally brought it up by accident because I thought you said protesters of January 6th. I just brought it up by what you said. I just misheard you.
So like, wait, when I said
take
protest,
a chill pill.
You said
I
January
just
6th,
misheard you.
You said January 6th previous to me saying protest. I believe.
No. You asked about protests, about Trump protests, and I thought what I heard was protesters, and that's why I was confused.
I'm going to be interested to go back and look at that because I thought the way this went was
whatever.
You said, yeah, I thought that you said, yeah, like we understand the difference unlike January 6th, and I said were most of Trump's protests peaceful. That's how I thought the order went. I think you brought up January 6th before I asked the question were most of Trump's protests. That's what I thought. But nonetheless, it's hardly It's okay. It's not a big point. Fine. No problem. Now I'm going to keep playing this clip. The problem is I don't know exactly where it is. Remember, just for the audience, if you're tuning in, you said, I'm so sorry. I forgot. I know what your ex name is, but what was the name you asked me to call you by?
Jordan. You can just call me
Jordan. Okay. Jordan here says that he has heard me. What's the word that you used? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth. That I've misrepresented. Is that fair? I misrepresent people. When he watches me, he sees me misrepresent their quotes. And when I asked him for an example, he said, when I did a Spaces last year with Destiny, and I brought up a quote that he said in this discussion that I'm playing, that rioting was the other side of the coin to voting, he's saying that I misrepresented that. And then he at first said that he remembered, he saw Destiny watch this on stream. And then he said, actually, I don't even remember when I watched Destiny watch this on stream that he ever made that quote, that he said anything about rioting and voting being two sides of the same coin. Fair? Is that a fair catch up for everyone? You still there?
Yeah, no, I thought you were talking to your audience. My bad.
No, I was just explaining because when we started our discussion, there was like 100 people watching. Now there's some more. So I'm just explaining so people could know what to look for. You would agree that's what we're looking for? We'll see if we can find that clip and then we'll move on. Fair?
Yeah.
For the work. But I can go out and protest for the government to give me money.
Yeah, because the work will hopefully your ability to get a job. Well, I guess I don't know this point, but like in a month or 2 or 3.
I think that's tenuous.
It's protest work. The same fire isn't going to be there in a month or 2 or 3.
I think that's tenuous at best. I think that anytime you start playing around with, well, your right to assembly could be eliminated unless it's on a particular issue, that's absurd. I think it's absolutely absurd. And it's just as I just want to pause here to just say, as the greater conversation we're talking about Destiny accusing other people of being fascist adjacent, you're aware that Destiny in this clip is defending lockdowns from the pandemic, correct?
Yeah.
Do you find that to be fascist?
No.
Can you define fascist?
If you give me a minute, I wasn't ready to define fascism.
That's all right. What do you think Destiny means when he says Asmongold's fascist adjacent? I'm not a gotcha with the depth. What do you think he means when he says that?
Well, what I think he means is that it's like authoritarian light. Like you are looking for a strong man. It kind of the same. I would look at it as a similar model. I think fascism is way too loaded a term. That's why I usually try not to use it. But at the same time, I think you look at authoritarian regimes like Viktor Orban in Hungary or Putin in Russia, and it's sympathizing to those types of governments coming into power. And I believe that is at the crux of what Destiny's arguing about with Asmongold about, him moving the goalpost to be able to continue to support Trump, and that, you're supporting an authoritarian individual. You're supporting a strong man. So that's
I would agree. So for me, I always thought fascism, and I want to be clear here. This is not how I think Destiny's using the term. But to me, fascism was always like sort of a combination of like corporate and government power used for like authoritarian purposes. That's how but I think that the way most people use fascism is just basically a stand-in for like grotesque authoritarianism. Would you say that's fair?
I would probably, without trying to make this an hour-long.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get too semantic about it. So for me, it's blatantly authoritarian to tell people like you can't go to work. That's authoritarian.
So can you explain to me why you feel that way?
Yes, because I hate to get semantic, but to me, I would define authoritarian as I have rights that the government is unilaterally saying, nope, we're taking those rights away. So if the government says you can't speak, you can't defend yourself, you can't leave your home to go to work, I think that's all obvious authoritarianism. You could say, but that's necessary authoritarianism, that's good authoritarianism, but nonetheless, it's authoritarian.
Okay, so basically, so you, in this argument, you could say that there's things called like good authoritarianism. Then
you could make that argument if you want. I'm saying that people could make that argument.
Because like, yes, but you can also, but like there's public safety and public health safety stuff that come into play here. That once certain, like a state of emergency, when you have a state of emergency for, let's just say you have a massive blizzard, the state says, hey, listen, there's a state of emergency. We need to we need to keep everybody off the road so that we can get the plows through. Would you call calling a state of emergency for a blizzard, would you call that authoritarian?
I don't know. probably I would still say it's authoritarian. I might say that authoritarian is necessary somewhere. Let's take it directly to the pandemic. If there was a biological weapon that was released in New York City, right, and we knew that it had a 90% fatality rate and it was like 80% infectious, would it be authoritarian for the government to say, no one's allowed to leave New York? You're all barricaded in here like a zombie movie or something? Yeah. But would you say, look, it's a necessary evil? Maybe. You might. But the point I'm trying to make here is we're going to disagree. I understand the people that supported lockdowns, who supported that authoritarianism, are going to say, but that was good, right? And the problem is it wasn't good, one. But if you're then going to criticize, if the Trump administration says, well, we're trying to kick out terrorists, we're trying to kick out gangsters, and you're like, no, that's authoritarian, that's fascism. Well, that word sort of loses meaning when you yourselves have cheered for more authoritarian policies and just said, yeah, but our authoritarianism was necessary.
Okay, but so
it was a necessary
evil. Let me stop you there though, because so when you talk about, so what specific laws did the lockdowns break for you to make it authoritarianism?
Well, I would say free speech and free assembly.
Where was free speech and free assembly? Where was that truly affected in a public setting? Because for me, you can have free assembly. So for the state that I lived in, I'm just using an example. Sorry, it was rhetorical. So for me, for example, the state that I lived in, I would argue that we met that criteria of freedom of assembly because we were allowed to have social circles of 10 to 15 people. So to me, that's
authoritarianism. What if you wanted 20?
No, because you're allowed to still assemble.
No, that's okay, but
so you have the freedom you still have the freedom to assemble.
No.
The government's not breaking into your house and arresting you for having 10 people. Nobody broke into a house and arrested.
That's not true. There were arrests. There were arrests. For example, I could point to you news stories that occurred in my state in Philadelphia where neighbors had called on a wedding reception that was happening where there were like 30 people and they broke in and arrested people there and saying, well, it's not authoritarianism if they allowed 10 people. So then based on your rationale, my freedom of speech and freedom of assembly is not being violated as long as I can meet with at least one other person?
Well, I mean, it depends on. So I'd have to reread what the assembly, the way it reads in the Constitution, because
I mean, but what if Trump
again?
did that?
Because hold on for a second though, because like we apply these to the other amendments in the Constitution. We do have rules and regulations, even though the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. We still have rules and regulations either at a state or a federal level that limit us to having certain types of firearms. So would you call that authoritarianism?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I
So
think about it then. But again, that example is less egregious than what we're talking about here. Like you seem to be quibbling like, well, as long as we are allowed to have 10 people, then that's not a violation of our right to assembly. It certainly is.
Yeah, no, it's
and not to mention, I could talk specifics. There were people that got arrested for being in public parks. There were people that got arrested for being on public beaches. There were people that were arrested for attempting to go to work. I personally knew someone who got fined because their restaurant in Pennsylvania wasn't allowed to open except from the hours of noon to 5, and they served someone food at 11:55 and got a fine for that. There were people that were told that
they broke the rules. So they broke,
yes,
you're telling me
the
people that are
authoritarian fascist
but
rules.
if you put in rules, but that's your opinion though, Rob. Your opinion is that it's authoritarianism, where it's just ordinance that are put in place. So any type of an ordinance for you would be authoritarianism then.
No,
in a crux.
I'm saying that those, I'm saying not any, but I am saying that ones that blatantly go against the foundation of our government, such as the First Amendment, yes, I would consider those authoritarian. Now, every argument that you're making here, you realize I could turn and make a defense for all of Trump's policies. For example, I could say, oh, well, the Immigration Nationality Act says that we're allowed to kick people out that we think are subverting U.S. politics or our political stances. Therefore, they broke the rules when those people, when Khalil was at that protest and it was trespassing. What does it matter? You're saying everything.
No, because like Abreu Kilmar Garcia wasn't afforded due process.
We could talk about Garcia here later, no problem, right? But why would due process matter? The right to free assembly is something that we're guaranteed, just like due process. And when that was violated, you're like, but that's okay. It was for good reasons.
I never said it was okay. I said that there was restrictions put in place for public health safety, and you think that that's authoritarianism, but you're still afforded that. So I would disagree with you. The same way I would disagree with the Second Amendment one, because again,
it's outrageous. You're making a distinction without difference, but doesn't have a meritorious difference, right? So what you're saying is like, well, to violate Garcia's due process is outrageous, right? Because that's guaranteed in the Constitution, right? But to violate your First Amendment, well, you were still allowed to hang out with 9 other people, and that was for public health. So it's okay. I think people can
they're
make up their own
fundamentally two
judgment.
different things. They're
I
fundamentally
disagree.
two
I
different
think that
things.
the argument that Trump's team would make is, no, this is fundamentally about people's safety as well, and getting out violent gangbangers like MS-13.
So then we're just not going to give a person due process. Then that's the main difference.
But
like Rob, here's the
we're
problem.
We're not going to give people the right to assembly. We're not going to allow people to go to work. You're not going to allow people to go to their mom's funeral. You're not going to allow people to go to their
If Trump gave Garcia due process, I would be okay with them deporting him.
We're not going to allow people to go grocery shopping.
Yeah,
I could play this game all day.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, you're wrong though, because it's two totally different things.
No, it's not.
You're trying to make a correlation here, and there's nothing.
There is a correlation. Yes or no? Were both of these in your mind authoritarian?
What?
The lockdowns and all the various things we saw from that, and the deportation of Garcia.
So the deportation of Garcia is authoritarianism definitionally. The
why is that, by the way? Because he didn't get due process.
Yes, which is afforded to him under the Constitution.
I promise we'll talk about this all you want. You want to get to these quotes real quick?
I mean, if you want to, but I mean, hey, listen, it's your show, man. Okay.
I'm probably going to be here. Promise we
just so you know, I'm probably
Garcia,
going to be here about another 15 minutes or so.
Another 15 minutes. Okay. Here's the.
I got a life, man. I'm sorry. I'm traveling for work. I got other stuff I got to do here.
See if you can hear.
Territorial at all. I think that affecting political change like this is fine. Like that's part of the goal. Like activism and riots are one side of the coin, and the other side is voting. Like bringing awareness to issues like this, and an attempt to get people to vote differently is part of the goal, right?
You were saying?
Yeah, so activism and riots are one side of the other side of voting. So that big word activism you just cut out. Again, like I said, you loaded the language by cutting out activism, because that is truly what the conversation is about. He's not advocating for protesting, or he's not advocating for riots. He's advocating if you're feeling like you're not being heard through your vote, you activate, you do activism, and you protest.
So I just want to go back to now the original criticism Destiny had of Asmongold, which you were saying that you were sort of defending. And that criticism is, in general, Trump supporters will defend anything Trump says. And now what you've done you've literally came in here, you've heard word for word what Destiny said, and you're immediately parsing. Oh, well, yes, he did say parsing words. That's language works. He did say rioting was the other side of the same coin as voting, but he also said activism and rioting. And so therefore, I think he meant something different. Everyone that's listening could hear what he just said. Everyone could hear it, and you are making a fool of yourself, and you are projecting that Trump supporters won't criticize Trump in the same way that you, when it's blatantly shown evidence to you, won't criticize when it's brought in front of you. Now, I could dig through this.
What do you want me to criticize Destiny here?
You could say I was wrong. Destiny absolutely said it, that violence was the other, or rioting was the other side of the coin to voting.
Rob, I am wrong then. I apologize.
Well, you also admit that you're wrong when you said I misrepresented him.
Sure, I still think you're loading his language, but that's fine. We can. You want
to go to the next clip?
Yeah,
Let's see if I can find this. Now, this clip is we're trying to find Destiny saying that we should ban social media. Let's see if I can find that. Again, I don't have these timestamped, but let's see if I can. I have a vague memory of where it was in some of these. Let's see. Share screen. All right.
But I don't know what they're saying. I don't want to misrepresent any viewpoints, but is there one thing that connects all these people into going down the conspiracy shit? Yes, actually. It's going to Destiny, come on, they're on completely different levels in terms of wrong. If you want to moralize it, sure, but factually, no. And I mean, like we've watched it happen over and over and over and over again. My mom was repeating some pieces of misinformation that left-leaning people spread. For instance, I remember my mom saying the police opened the gates to let the protesters into the Capitol. A lot of left-leaning people were retweeting that. We watched left-leaning people retweet the thing about the one cop saying Blue Lives Matter to the people. It never happened. We've seen like a whole bunch of misinformation being retweeted. We've seen people, everybody retweets misinformation. This isn't like a satisfying solution, but like the best thing that could happen for like the media environment right now is all forms of alternative media should be completely banned, and only like the mainstream publications can fight against each other doing it. But that
catch that? All alternative media should be banned, Only mainstream publications should be allowed to argue against. That sounds pretty fascistic. Only corporations and the government should have a voice. Now, am I misrepresenting that? Are you still there? I don't hear you anymore. You're not muted. Are you there? Oh, I'm sorry. I did have you kind of muted. I'm sorry. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay. So was I accurate that he literally says that we should only have mainstream voices?
No, he says what the. So again, we're just gonna play word games here, Rob. But what he said was the best thing for the media environment that we're in now is to cut out alternative media. That it's a suggestion. All right, you know what, Rob? I hear what you're saying and I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, like you again, this is the normative loading that you're doing to his conversation, like what he's talking about. Because if you listen to Destiny talk about the media environment, he talks about it on the left side and the right side, how there is a bunch of, and he's talking in this clip about conspiracy theories as well too, about how when there's misinformation, there's a factual side and then there's an infactual side, and what I'm assuming he's applying to is the misinformation side of things, where it's not factually correct, where you can't prove it with data, you can't prove it with science. That stuff should be pushed down.
Okay, so again, what I said, you've done what I accurately predicted you would. You would say it's different when we do it. When
That's
Destiny's calling,
that
is what you just said.
No,
was
that's not what I said,
well.
Rob. That's not what I said.
Let me see if let me steel man your position. Well, this wouldn't be authoritarian or fascism, because what he's saying is we would have to cut out all of that social media to get rid of disinformation. And he's criticizing the left and the right, but he has this problem with disinformation because it's very dangerous to the public discourse. So that's why he's suggesting getting rid of these platforms.
Yeah, I would say
right. And so then my response to that is right. When your side does things like recommending banning all social media, so only mainstream publications have a
okay,
voice.
but again, we're going to talk about magnitude. Hold on. But like, no, I just let you go with the clip.
Finish real quick.
Go ahead.
When I bring, and when I'm like, wow, that sounds very fascist. By definition, fascist, you're like, but there's a good reason for that fascism. Hashtag it's different.
Would you not agree that cleaning up the media environment that we have now would be a good thing?
Sure. Our media sucks. More social media would be better.
You think more social media would be better?
I think that it is evident that our mainstream media sucks. That's why trust is so low. There's certainly... think of how this works.
So what mainstream media has taken money from a foreign country and pushed foreign countries' narratives? I'm sorry. Fox News did get sued $800 million because of lying on air about the 2020 election. So I hear what you're saying, but like at the same time,
all of your non sequiturs, all of these non sequiturs mean nothing to me. The criticism that you're making here could be boiled down to this. Let me ask you a question. Don't you want to get rid of racism, racist speech?
No, it's part of the First Amendment. Why would I want to get rid of it?
Misinformation. Next.
Okay. Do I think racist speech and misinformation should be regulated if possible? Yeah, I think so, maybe. But I don't know how to regulate it because I'm not. The
point is, when I'm like, dude, this guy you support is calling for. My entire criticism of Destiny is he has routinely called for fascist-like policies, like banning social media, so only the mainstream media has a voice. Right. He's also specifically in more recent interviews specifically talked about right-wing streamers and talking about we should get these people, we should ban them, blah, blah, blah. Right. He said that. I don't have the clips in front of me, but I've seen that. Right. And the point is, when I bring that up, you're like, I don't believe it. It could be misrepresentation.
Well, no, I said I want to see it. It's not
okay. So you saw it. And then as predicted, what happens is you're like, well, but there are good reasons for that. And you actually said, like, you ask a question, right, where you're like, well, don't you want to clean up the media environment? And I'm like, sure. Okay, let's say I want to. That still doesn't justify banning people's First Amendment speech on these platforms, right? And it would be the same as me saying, don't you want to get rid of racism? Don't you want to deal with racism? And you're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, oh, so then we should ban First Amendment speech. And you're like, well, no. That would be against the First Amendment. So is banning people for what you call misinformation. Unfortunately, what we see is, real quick, last sentence. Unfortunately, what we see is some of the biggest purveyors of misinformation happen to be the mainstream media.
I don't have the time, energy, or effort to sit here and argue with you about purveyors of misinformation between mainstream media and social media. Correct. I think that is an outlandish claim, but you're brain frying me here a little bit.
So. More minutes. I guess then the only 2 points really going into, if you only have a couple, he advocated, he said Trump supporters are effing around finding out if they get shot. And he said the worst thing that could have happened was the assassin's bullet missing Trump. Would you consider those fascist-like authoritarian statements?
I think the second one is just mostly a joke. But
Well, I don't
what
think
was the
it is
first?
at all.
What was the first? What was the first one?
Saying Trump supporters are effing around and finding out if they get shot at Trump rallies. We'll
So
skip that one.
no. Let's not
Okay.
skip that one, because that one makes, so that one is, that's where the context of what he was talking about in that conversation. He was talking about how Trump has avoided all different types of justice, whether it be through Congress impeaching him, whether the Senate not affirming that in 2020, whether that would be with the court cases that he litigated himself to get all the way to the end of the election, and then had the Supreme Court rule in his favor about basically making him a king. I know it's a little hyperbolic, but what his argument is that if you have somebody like Trump who has escaped accountability over and over and over and over again in this situation. Now, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, Rob, because I see your face and I know you know where I'm going with this, but in this situation, the next logical course in history of human history is that when somebody escapes all different types of accountability, people will try to take matters into their own hands. Now, when it comes to people going to Trump rallies, what his argument about that is that you can't clutch your pearls and be so upset when you have the biggest purveyor in political speech rhetoric that induces violence or is implied to violence is Donald Trump. And so like those two things married together, so you have somebody who's historically escaped accountability in our country. And then you also add that to the dangerous rhetoric that he says every single time he hits the stage.
Give me an example of that dangerous rhetoric.
Yeah, he calls Kamala a fascist, commie, lunatic all the time.
So calling someone fascist would be a call to violence.
I never said that was a call to violence.
I just said, give me an example of his violent, insightful rhetoric, and you said he calls Kamala a fascist and a commie.
Yeah, well,
is that a call? Is that inciting violence? Calling someone a fascist commie?
Again, I misunderstood what you said. My bad. I'm having
more like you understood what you said just detriments your entire argument. That's what you mean. But
yeah, no, you just don't believe in anybody ever having an honest mistake, Rob. I don't do this for a living, so I'm trying to come on here and have a nice conversation with you, but you're picking apart my language everywhere I go. So I appreciate you giving me the time to have this conversation with you, but if you're just gonna be a dick,
I'm taking your words. Explain to me how this mistake happened. I said, give me an example of Trump's calls to violence. You say, of course.
I thought you said his rhetoric. So I was just going off of his
give me an
rhetoric.
example of Trump's rhetoric being a call to violence. So then you would say, oh, him saying that Kamala Harris was a fascist. That would be an example of his rhetoric being a call to violence?
Yeah, because if you have people in his audience who really think that Kamala Harris is a fascist, then you're going to have people take up arms and
do you think Trump's a fascist?
Do I think Trump is a fascist? He has fascist tendencies.
Do you think Destiny thinks Trump's a fascist?
I would also think that he would say that he has fascist-like tendencies.
Okay, so then given that, and you just admitted that if people in your audience hear that and take it seriously, it could be a call to violence, would you then blame Destiny if one of his viewers takes an attack at Trump? Would you say that was Destiny's rhetoric issuing a call to violence? Or what about Asmongold? He said that Asmongold was fascist adjacent. So if one of Destiny's supporters enacts out in violent action against Asmongold, you've already said that that's rhetoric.
Because Asmongold's cheering along fascistic. What he was doing was he was commenting about Asmongold cheering along the fascistic tendencies of Trump.
But nonetheless, you just said that just by claiming that, that's a call to violence. That's rhetoric to violence. That's what you said. If you use rhetoric, when Trump uses rhetoric and calls Kamala a fascist or says she's engaging with fascist policies, that could be that you consider that rhetoric that's a call to violence. So my question is,
I think it's a part of rhetoric that's caused to violence.
Okay, so then you would say, in part, what you're doing right now is rhetoric that's a call to violence by calling Trump or Asmongold fascist.
Because magnitude is different. As magnitude is completely different, Rob. The magnitude is completely different. It's not even close. I have like 5 people who follow me.
Okay, but Destiny has tens of thousands.
Okay, that's great.
So then it's for you, it's not, but for Destiny, it is.
Well, but so like Destiny goes into all right. So yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with the conversation from here on. I just, like I said, I'm trying to, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, now the other point I want to make. So we got that. I understand. I read Destiny's Reddit. People send me the post. Yes, I know a bunch of people that listen to Destiny think that the Supreme Court's decision made him God, Emperor, King. And so after the assassination attempt, a lot of people in his audience were saying things like, hey, we tried to go through it with legal means and that didn't work. The courts are corrupt. And so now I get what was being inferred. I get it. 55% of Democrats in a recent poll said that they think that it would be at least somewhat legitimate to murder Trump. I forget the exact language it used, but something to that effect. To get to the other point, though, the comment that he made specifically that the worst thing that could have happened was the assassination. I believe that it was close to this. Pisco came on and asked him and said, hey, man, can we at least agree? Like, they're talking about the assassination, and Pisco goes, you didn't want that bullet to really kill Trump, did you? And Destiny said something. He pauses for a minute and says something effective like, I don't know what I could say because of terms of service. I will say that the worst thing that could happen was that bullet missing Trump. And you're saying you think that was a joke.
It's edgy humor.
I don't think that's a joke at all. I think that you could make the argument. Let me finish. I think you could make the argument that the Corey Competore comment is a joke, right? He died. I'm going to make edgy jokes. Okay. I think that you could make the comment defending Destiny when he's on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan says, will you condemn this? And Destiny makes this claim, which I actually support, which is, I don't owe you anything, Piers, because I think you're disingenuous. I think you're a hypocrite. So I'm not going to listen to you demand I do anything. I think that there's some truth to that. Not that I agree with Destiny about his comments about Piers, but I understand that proclivity to say, look, if I think someone's disingenuous and they wouldn't condemn this same sort of thing on their side, I'm not going to listen to them demand that I condemn stuff. But Pisco doesn't fall into that category. Pisco at this point was Destiny's friend. He's Destiny's co-host. They're not in a joking mood. They're very much. Pisco then goes on a long diatribe like, no, you're seriously wrong. Here's why that him actually being assassinated would be terrible. It's clear that Destiny's not joking when he says that to his friend and co-host. So that, to me, is the top of the authoritarian, terrible pyramid. You're literally calling for, saying the worst thing that could happen was that bullet not killing the politician that I'm against. So how could, if you're going to defend Destiny, because the whole crux of this conversation was going to be, look, I don't think Destiny's the one to point fingers at Asmongold for being, quote, fascist adjacent when he's advocating for the censorship of people, like on social media. He's advocating for censorship of people he disagrees with, and like all kinds of other stuffs, up to and including saying that the worst thing that could happen was that bullet missing Trump. And the only defense you have for that is, yeah, but it's a joke. I just don't believe that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
What makes you think it's a joke? You understand that tonally it's very different than the Corey Competore, the firefighter that died. Those are far more clearly structured as jokes, correct?
Yeah, I would agree.
So why would he structure this differently? It's not like laughing. No one's
just
laughing.
Because it's the way. So then we would start talking about how communication is portrayed and how you can infer lines of humor from serious statements. Like, we can get into that kind of conversation if you truly want, but I mean, like I said,
from the perspective of Destiny, he has said in the past that Trump saying words like "fight like hell" on January 6th was a call to violence. Do you agree with that?
So again, you're leaving out all the context of every single person coming up before Trump talking about how we need to have trial by combat and you need to take your country back by force. And like, so yeah, you can say that Trump, the fight like hell comment was an incitement to violence, but it was at the end of a 3-hour it was at the end of a 3-hour rally, basically getting everyone frothed up to go and protest, in quotations, at
but nonetheless,
the Capitol.
You can make the same sort of comments about other people. For example, I could say, well, Destiny's aware of the comments that are being made on his Reddit, where people were saying, well, the courts failed, now it's time we take action, when he's saying these sorts of things. The point I'm trying to make is Destiny claimed that that was an incitement to violence. In fact, I went through it. As you know, you watched our January 6th debate. The Colorado court that used these sort of quotes in part to say Trump engaged in an insurrection. Some of the quotes they used, and Destiny said that these were all examples of him inciting violence. They used a quote where it said that the problem with Mitch McConnell was he wasn't a fighter and he needed to fight more. And I said, Destiny, do you think that Donald Trump was literally telling Mitch McConnell, hey, man, you got to strap some tape and dip your hand in broken glass like in
No,
kickboxing?
but
Of course not, right?
no, but
My
you know,
point-
like implied language though, like if you
well, that's
continue
exactly my point, though. If those things, if the implied language of those sorts of things are going to rise to the level of, well, this is clearly an incitement to violence, how is Destiny not saying the worst thing that could have happened was this bullet missing Trump, not implied a call to violence?
I just think it's a completely different magnitude in the context around the conversation.
Well, magnitude's one thing, right? Like, of course, a streamer, no matter how popular he is, probably isn't going to have as many ears listening to him as the president.
Yeah,
but
then that also comes
doesn't
with
mean that
also comes with responsibility of language. So
That's
like
right.
you and I would have two different you and I would have two different responsibilities for language. You have a bunch of people that follow you and watch you every single day. I do not. I have 35, 40 employees who listen to me. So like the things that I go about talking about and things that you go about talking about will be completely different. I don't think it's what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's good to use this as the comparison here because
of course,
again, Trump again is at the end of a 3-hour rally where every single person
he said go be peaceful. He said go be peaceful
one time in a 3-hour conversation.
So
just
what?
one time.
Like him using language,
one little phrase doesn't wipe out all of the other language.
Yes, it does. When it's clear that he's using phrases that colloquially we hear politicians use all the time. We need to fight like hell. This is said over and over. If you also
incorporate that with how he knew that there were weapons and like
he didn't know there were weapons. What weapons did he know were there?
There's literally testified. I think it was Cassidy Hutchinson testified in front of Congress.
The woman that was completely discredited that said that Trump grabbed the wheel of the beast and turned it around.
Did they go on to a?
Yes, she's been completely Do you believe her testimony? Do you believe her testimony that Donald Trump physically grabbed the steering wheel of the beast, the limo that was calling him, and tried to turn it back? You believe that?
She said he lunged at the steering wheel.
Because the other people that were in the car said that none of that's true.
But go ahead. Let's assume that did they testify under oath?
Yes, they did testify under the January 6th.
Under oath that didn't
was
happen.
the January 6th committee testimony under oath?
It wasn't the whole.
Yes,
January
they did testify under oath.
Okay.
Now the January 6th committee that was political and partisan.
Yes. That McCarthy didn't want to put any Republicans on because he was butthurt that the two Republicans he did want to put on.
You're non-sequitur.
But I'm just letting you know what the situation was. You can't.
I understand
cherry pick
better than
you. Can't just cherry pick.
I understand better right. They gave McCarthy the option to pick the pre-selected Republicans that they wanted on the committee. He couldn't have the ones.
There was two that they did, and those two were going to be part of the investigation. Do you have criminals help out in the investigation?
Okay, so just to be clear,
is that what you do?
Okay, just to be clear, if there is an anti-January 6th commission, one that's looking into January commission, you will admit that any Democrat that spoke up about the January 6th commission, communicated with any Democrats, or was on the January 6th commission, none of them should be allowed to be on the committee because they could be the target of that investigation. You would agree with that, correct?
Absolutely.
We'll see. We'll see if that happens.
No. Like when that happens, no. You know why? Because I have principles. Because guess what? Again, you shouldn't. If you're being investigated, if you, Rob, were investigating me about the job performance I was doing, you wouldn't then turn to me and say, "Hey, how's your job performance?"
You can't say we're literally investigating almost every Republican that's MAGA, and therefore no Republican that's MAGA can be on this committee. It's stupid and it's a non sequitur. It's a non sequitur. It's a red herring to get off this. The point that I'm trying to make is when you talk about this question of magnitude, right? What Destiny said is far more harsh as a call to violence, saying that bullet, the worst thing that could happen was that bullet that missed. Like, and you got to take everything in connection. That's literally like what, 1 or 2 days after the assassination attempt, and then before what we would see would be a second assassination attempt. Right, it's not like he just made this comment out of thin air and then it just happened. There was an assassination attempt later. He's literally saying this in response to an assassination attempt that just occurred, when he's saying that the law has failed, that Trump has declared himself God, Emperor, King. And so when you're saying context matters, I agree. Then you're proving my point for me. The context surrounding Destiny's statement saying that he wishes that bullet, or that the worst thing that could happen was that bullet missing Trump. The context is he wasn't joking. The context is he was saying, I wish Trump would have been killed. It would have been best for the country. And so when he goes out there and criticizes other people being, quote, fascist adjacent, I think that it comes across as very hypocritical and hollow. Because as I said from the get-go, when Democrats do this, or when people like Destiny do it, you and Destiny and other people that support him and people like him are going to say, but it's different. When they did it, the context and the tone was different, and they were advocating for things for a good reason. So that's why I don't take seriously people like Destiny that wants to criticize fascism. He himself supports it when it benefits himself in far more gratuitous ways. Do you think he criticized Obama and said he wouldn't vote for him? You want to talk about due process, right?
I have no idea if he did that or not.
Okay, well, let's just talk about you then. Let's leave Destiny out of it.
Sure.
Did you criticize? Do you mind me asking how old you are? Because if you're only 18, then maybe this.
No, Obama in 2012 was the first president I voted for.
Okay,
so.
fair enough. So did you criticize the lack of due process afforded to American citizen Al-Awlaki when he was executed by Obama?
Well, so
There's no trial, correct?
So at the time I was only 18 and was not very politically as I am now. Well, looking back retrospectively, I think the due process was afforded in the conversations that Obama had with his office of legal counsel. But like I said, the Obama stuff is a little fuzzy for me because again,
Can you define due process then? Like again, I don't mean to dictionary.
Hold on. Nope, I misspoke. You're right. Yep, you're right. I misspoke. What I would with the Obama situation, because I had to look into it. My apologies for being wrong. The Obama situation that fell underneath the act that was passed under fell under Bush, correct? Where if I could be wrong, I don't remember the name of the act, but basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You want to look it up, but if it's in the act of war or whatever it was with the terrorist, you would have to look it up. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
No, I forget the name of the act. That's cool. I'm certainly not going to criticize you for that. I don't. Nonetheless, he had no due process.
No, but it was also followed under the law of the law of the land at the time when it came to dealing with these types of situations.
So you're perfectly fine with due process being violated as long as the person doing the violation of the due process says, well, we could say it was an act of war, so it's okay. It fits under this.
Well, if it fits under a statute and it fits under an act, then like at the same time, I disagree with the wiretapping and all the stuff that happened with the Patriot Act. But at the same time,
okay, well then why can't Trump say this fits under the Alien Enemy Act? So we're allowed to deport all these people like Garcia. They're foreign terrorists.
Are we at war with Venezuela?
That's what the invocation of the Alien Enemy Act says.
Like, did we declare war with Venezuela?
It is based on what they did. What the executive did was said that Venezuela is intentionally sending, the government of Venezuela is intentionally sending terrorists to the United States.
Sure.
And so we, because of that, invoke this act to remove them. It's remarkably similar to, I forget the engagement, the thing you're talking about under Bush, right? Because we're not really, it's not like Al-Qaeda was a country, right? It was a terrorist organization, similar to how MS-13 could be considered a terrorist, or ISIS could be considered terrorist, or insert any other, Al-Nusra could be considered terrorist, right? Or Boko Haram, right? Any of these groups, once you call them terrorist and say, now this is operating with military instead of just domestic police, that's what the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act is. That these are basically combat-ready terrorists that were sent here to damage our country by a foreign country. Therefore, we're allowed to violate due process.
So then, is that really what the act says? Because they can violate due process if they.
Well, it doesn't say that, but what it says is we're allowed to basically export them to a foreign country. Like to export them to a foreign prison.
But the implication would still be that they would be given due process.
Why wouldn't that same implication be given to Al-Awlaki?
Well, if that's what they argued successfully underneath the law, Trump is trying to argue. Well, hold on a second, Rob. Trump is trying to argue this with the Supreme Court, and he's been shut down.
No, he's not. He's not been shut down. He's not been shut down. And second, that's sort of irrelevant to the grand scope.
It's not irrelevant.
Abuse, right? Because who had standing to bring up Al-Awlaki's execution? Could Al-Awlaki fight it?
A family member, I guess, could bring.
Yeah, they killed his son too, who was 16. They did that
I'm sure he's got other family.
Really, you know that a family member in the United States that could bring that up? Can you point to that?
No, I'm just saying in general, Rob, that another person could have standing in this.
Just because the court sat back and allowed that egregious violation of due process to occur, the people that are now screaming due process, again, once more, it comes across as hollow. Would you admit that deporting someone to their country of origin is less
not his country
egregious?
Of origin, by the way. Oh, wait, no, Garcia was. Yeah, never mind.
Okay.
Sorry. There's too many deportations to be able to follow all of them.
Not enough. Not
enough because, again, he lied about having 10 10 million or 20 million under Biden. And so what is he only? I think he's only. Never mind. I'm not going to go off on a tangent.
All right.
But
So
no, yeah,
nonetheless, would you admit that deporting someone from their country of origin is a less harsh penalty than executing them?
No,
That seems to be
I
pretty
wouldn't,
clear cut,
I wouldn't
right?
concede that. No, because if you ask me, if you know, Rob, because if you ask me if I get instant death or be tortured to death in El Salvador, I'd choose the instant death.
Okay. Is there any proof that he's being, quote, tortured to death?
Well, it's a notorious. CCOT is a notorious prison that does do that kind of stuff.
What kind of torture do they do in CCOT?
I'm not 100% sure about that.
But you just made the claim.
Okay.
I saw the video of, what was his name? Donald, the senator that went with where they seem to be, he didn't seem to be brutally beaten.
Yeah,
I didn't
that
see
was
any
staged.
wounds.
Again, the senator literally said that was all staged, and they
No, that's not what he said. He said that the margaritas were staged.
Got it. So the rest of it wasn't staged, but the margaritas were.
But
Correct.
nonetheless,
Okay,
if I
that's
was
fair.
brutally
Yep,
torturing,
that's a really honest way of looking at that, Rob. So they went to the hold on. They went to the extent to sip a little bit out of a margarita out of one and not the other, and then also didn't do the staging of the rest of the event. I mean, that's
you're right. They clearly had makeup on him covering up his grotesque wounds. Isn't it weird that that senator didn't say, I obviously saw signs of grotesque torture? He didn't look severely emaciated. He didn't look like he had wounds all over him. He didn't look like he was incapable of walking. So what sort of torture because you're saying, oh, I can't say that death's worse than being sent to your country of origin because maybe they're torturing him. So where's your evidence that they're torturing him other than you've heard that this is a tough prison? Let me ask you this, is Rikers a torturous prison?
I'm sure if you were to definitionally ask people inside, they've probably been tortured at some point.
Okay, so what percentage of people in Rikers right now do you think if I asked, would you rather be executed or be in Rikers? What proportion do you think would say, I'd rather be executed? That would be less bad.
I'm probably more than you think.
No, I doubt, because Rikers,
that's fine.
And it just seems, again,
you can have that opinion, but people can, there's called motivation in life, and some people's motivation in life is not to be locked up in a jail. They'd rather be dead. Like those.
What gets me is again, this starts from the idea of you're saying, Destiny's making this criticism against Asmongold that Trump supporters will never go against anything he says. Then you follow up by being like, I would literally have voted for a corpse other than Donald Trump. And then as we've gone through this conversation, you're incapable of admitting just like basic things we could all agree with. Yeah, to execute someone would be worse than to deport them to their country of origin. That would be worse. But you have to fight every step of the way because you can't just admit like, this is what I would have said if I was you. Of course, the execution would be worse, but I still think that there is a more heinous violation of due process in this case because of XYZ. But instead, you're like, no, I'm not willing to say execution would be worse. It sort of just proves that you're actually projecting when you accuse other people, in this case, Trump supporters, of being unwilling to criticize. You're unwilling. You're like debate broing this, just like Destiny would, out to the fullest extent, instead of just admitting an obvious truth. You can't admit that it's a more significant punish to execute someone than to deport them of their country of origin.
No, not definitionally speaking. No.
Okay. All right. Nonetheless, right. You want to talk about, I've got everything I wanted. If you want bonus time to talk about Garcia, I'm cool with it. So you can't accuse me of avoiding that conversation. I'm happy to do it.
No, I don't. I'm like I said, man, I've been traveling for a few weeks, so I'm really trying to get out of here. And
well, let me say this. Regardless of, I think my commentary on what I think about your stances here speaks for itself. However, I applaud you for calling in. I did not think you would. And so I hope that you feel like you got a fair shake here. I tried to give you equal amounts of time to talk and let you talk unfettered. And I actually think that it's a very difficult thing, particularly if you're not a streamer, to call into shows. So I applaud you for that. And if you ever want to call in and talk about something else, don't hesitate to send me a DM on X. That's probably the best place to find me. And we could do whatever. So,
all right, I appreciate it. I see you wearing a pirate. I see you wearing a Pirates hat, by the way. Are you? I'm trying to get back into baseball. I was as a kid. I love baseball, but the games got too long. I think the pitch clock has been like the best thing since sliced bread for baseball, and it's kind of brought me back.
There's two things why it hasn't brought me back. I happened to have a kid 4 years ago, so I watched like kid stuff. So that's one thing. And the other thing is just the Pirates suck. So for me, I loved baseball is my favorite sport. So I had this groundswell. I remember 91, 92. I remember Sid Bream crossing home plate, and so that's how bad. I used to joke the Pirates losing seasons were like 20 years. Like the Pirates losing seasons were old enough to drink. Like it'll be difficult to find a professional sports franchise that has under 500 seasons that many years in a row and still has a pretty significant fan base. But for me, what was it, 2016, McCutchen in his prime, them making the playoffs 2 years, and then just sort of the drought, the letdown, and then they just have sucked and haven't done anything to improve ever since. So I agree with you. When I casually watch baseball now, I think the pace is way better, but I'm not into baseball as much as I used to be for those reasons. So hopefully, I think my son, I'm going to take him to his first game this year, though. He's been to a Pittsburgh Penguins game, so I'm hoping that he'll enjoy the Pirates. So
yeah, I've been traveling actually in your neck of the woods. I'm trying to go to all the ballparks. I was able to go I was able to go to Camden Yards this past week, and it's really nice.
PNC is beautiful, man. If you've never been there, the park is too good for the team.
I'm about a 3-hour drive, so I might hike over there one time. But my team's the Red Sox. I'm from New England, so I was born into greatness when it comes to
listen.
sports.
When I ran for Congress, my campaign manager is a Democrat who is a Red Sox fan, right? Who's traveling to every ball field. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's his goal as well. He wants to go to everyone. Are you at least eating well? Because you hear about people doing this and they're like eating saltines and ketchup packs and stuff like that. So I hope you're eating well.
The food's it's going. It's all right. It's not the best. It's not the worst. So, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving me the time. I do apologize for cutting you off. I'm a little
sorry. It's just I'm not upset about that. It's just I have to. You got to come up with ways to try to be polite to.
I hear you.
For the purpose of the audience hearing, I interrupt too. Don't act. I'm not going to act like a saint. So,
all right, man. Well, I appreciate you. If you want to boot me out of here, because I'm kind of
I will. No problem.
Set up, but
take it
I appreciate
easy.
you. Have a good one.
Yep. All right. Let's see if I can kick from studio. I think. Okay. I see someone says Rob got destroyed. You got it, Tony. I got destroyed. Let's do some super chats. Think about it, then we'll talk more about that. Chronicles Live says, play the Destiny clip. We did. We got there. Skater Freak for $10 says, get him, Rob. I think I did. Thank you. And then the savior of the evening, Fervor Rel for $2. Rob, it's at 1 hour, 54 minutes and 38 seconds. Thank you so much. I was 20 minutes off, so I would have been looking for a while. So thank you. Garrett Link, thanks so much for $10. Says no comment, just to support the channel. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Corey Barton says debate brought by Big Soda. Thank you. Me and Ian Mouse Chung taking those soda dollars. Thank you. And then the incredible Jess Gerald, 2 donations of 50 memberships. As always, Jess Gerald, incredibly indebted to you. Thank you so much. The financial donations that you've done to me and other right-wing content creators is amazing. And I think people like you are what makes these spaces better, not just for us streamers, but also for the audience, because it allows more people to get into the space and have more freedom to do this. So thank you once more, as always, for your financial contributions. And Lord of the Nerds, thanks so much for $2, says DGG, incapable of not making false equivalencies. Thank you. I do applaud him for calling in. I really do. But I think you could see sort of the point that I was trying to make there, as far as sort of the the claims of Destiny saying Asmongold's fascist adjacent. I think that Fabian Liberty did a great job the other day of going on Destiny's channel and sort of commenting about some of these Asmongold posts. But it's very interesting to hear people like that. I mean, when you hear Destiny in his own words, now I've defended Destiny in the past, right? I don't think he should be banned. I don't. You've never heard me say that. Like, I thought the fact that he got banned off Twitch was absurd. And the people that were sort of gleefully cheering were stupid because, one, it's just morally wrong to ban Destiny from Twitch. But second, they couldn't see that they were cutting off their nose to spite their face because so much of the Twitch politics scene was through Destiny. So big blunder there. But, to me, it's just like the comments that he's made, though. Look, I get it. Yeah, I heard someone say that Jay Dyer was doing very good against Fabian. Maybe it's something I'll check out. I usually don't jump into the religion debates that much. But the Spaces debate, after the assassination attempt, when Destiny started making his comments about the firefighter getting killed and stuff, Lauren Southern held a Spaces I happened to be at work listening to it on my phone, and Destiny was wrecking these fools, just like random callers that were calling in. And so I called in and I was like, the thing that agitates me the most about you, Destiny, is sort of your smugness and inability to be honest about what you believe. For example, the first time I ever talked to you, you said that rioting was the other side of the coin to voting. And you made excuses for the riots that we saw occurring there. Right. And so then you originally said about January 6th, oh, I didn't think it was it was sort of a riot. It wasn't a coup, blah, 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 blah. And then you changed your position later when it politically benefits you. That's what you're doing. I'm not doing the Destiny manifesto. I don't care that much about the guy. But I just think it's interesting when I see, like, if all the people, there are people on the left that could say, hey, I think that Asmongold's fascist adjacent, and it would at least come across as less hypocritical. But when Destiny's calling to ban people, when he's saying the worst thing that could happen was that bullet not hitting Trump, and I'm sorry, once he realizes it's bad for his brand and tries to walk it back, okay. But you could see the thesis when it comes right down to it. My point was Destiny is engaged in fascist-like opinions or suggestions of policies. And so who is he to criticize other people for fascist-adjacent opinions? The caller seemed to be saying, like, Destiny's big point, and the big point the caller wanted to make is Trump supporters will never criticize Trump. Some won't. I've criticized those Trump supporters that won't. In fact, that was what most of my streaming in 2020 was about, other than COVID, right? But I've certainly criticized Trump heavily. But what's funny is the same people that make that criticism, they fall under the same trap. And you could just listen to that guy. Just let him talk. I would vote for a corpse over Trump. Okay, right? Well, when we called for authoritarian measures, it was different. Well, when Destiny said that, it was different. He says calling someone a fascist is rhetoric leading to incitement. Okay, but that's what you're doing right now. You're calling Trump. That's what Destiny's doing. Not only is he calling Trump a fascist, he's saying that Asmongold is fascist adjacent. This is, but context matters. Right. There have been continuing attempts on Trump's life. I personally think that it would be absurd, absolutely absurd to say calling someone a fascist means that you're inciting violence against them. Maybe technically it's true, but I would never hold anyone accountable. Of course, you should be able to call out politicians you think are fascists, authoritarians, whatever. But when he says, well, Trump blatant calls to violence, and I'm like what? We called Kamala Harris a fascist commie. That's not a call to violence. Saying the worst thing that could have happened was that bullet missing, that seems to be at least a dog whistle to violence, much closer. Right, and the left's been calling everyone fascist for years. So are all those a call to violence? I'm glad he called in. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I thoroughly did. Now I got some grievances to air. I got to read something again real quick. Oh, here, if you want to hear this clip, thank you. The Great Black Elk, my editor, must be watching. He sent me this clip. Another great fan of the show, Surian. This is a clip from him on X. So here we go. This is a 2-minute clip of this Spaces we're talking about.
Speaker Rob Noor. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
That is correct. Thank you so much. Edgelord Destiny, great to be here. Know that you really don't like people that are read up. So happy to beat you around on these subjects.
Sorry, my iPhone, when I use Spaces, makes me sound like I have a huge lisp. So I apologize for that.
Like always. To start with, I find most repugnant about what you're doing, not that you're an edgelord making jokes, but that you're a disingenuous sack of shit. Because, as I've debated you in the past, you started talking before January 6th ever occurred about how the BLM riots were justified. It was just the other side of the coin of voting. Of course, once you realized that grip wouldn't do as well for you when you were debating the Rittenhouse shit, you completely 180'd your position.
Hold on, just to be clear, wait. I don't think I've ever supported violent riots against private property. I don't know if I've ever supported that in the US. The farthest my position ever went was if people wanted to violently riot against public property, that maybe that's defensible. I'm pretty sure that's the farthest I've ever gone, even prior to Rittenhouse. I don't know where that opinion comes from. I've always supported protests and even riots.
Notice that he changes the question there. Did you notice that? First off, thank you, Nico, for 20 bucks. Says, well done, weirdo. Thank you, Nico Pluto. Appreciate it. Notice he changes. I said originally you made excuses for the BLM riots, right? Saying that riot was the other side of the coin of voting. And he says, I never said that riot against private property was legitimized. I said against public. Right. I never said you only said, you'll see.
To some extent, as long as it's not against private property. But
That is exactly true. What you said to me was, even though you weren't sure how much of the violence was against private property versus public, but to the extent that the George Floyd riots were against public property, you said that that's fine. If you feel the system's not working for you, we're America, God.
Thank you for the raid. Was it Grid that raided me? Thank you. Stick around, Grid. I got something to complain about that might interest you. I'll get to it quickly here. Thank you for the raid, whoever it was. If it was Grid, thank you. All right, let's finish this little clip here.
God damn it. And rioting's the other side of the coin to voting. Now, when that occurs on January 6th,
did I ever say rioting is the other side of the coin to voting? That's a really strange statement if I did. If I did, that's a really strange statement, but go ahead. Okay.
I will try to find the clip for you.
Flashback.
I mean, I think that what you're saying gets to a truth of what a lot of people are thinking on the left, which they actually like these riots. And I think that this could be a reason. This is the conspiratorial nature in me, but this could be why people like de Blasio are like, yeah, go ahead, keep rioting. We're just going to give up parts of the city and be unwilling to accept the National Guard.
Well, I don't think there's conspiratorial at all. I think that affecting political change like this is fine. Like that's part of the goal. Like activism and riots are one side of the coin and the other side is voting. I think there's
You hear that? No, what's the context that a caller said that I was misrepresenting? I literally said, I think it's conspiratorial of me, but I think de Blasio is allowing these riots to go because they want them to affect political change. Destiny says, I don't think that's conspiratorial at all. I think trying to affect change is good. It's the other side of the coin to voting. Where's the misrepresentation?
Conspiratorial at all. I think that affecting political change like this is fine. Like that's part of the goal. Like activism and riots are one side of the coin and the other side is voting. Activism and riots are one side of the coin and the other side is voting. Activism and riots are one side of the coin. And
thank you, Surian. Surian always has a flair for the dramatic there. Thank you. So yeah, thank you, Black Elk and Surian for that. I appreciate it. Let me check out the other thing I wanted to check. Thank you so much to Andy. That I know you sent me an email. I need to check it out. Sorry about that. Did Grid Sports leave? Let me talk some garbage. Okay, so we wrecked Destiny. We wrecked the Destiny supporter. We're happy the Destiny supporter called in. It's fun. Go back and watch the 2-hour stream. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Classic shellacking. Grid, you can hop up after I say my piece here, because I think you know what I'm about to complain about. I was sent an offer from Modern Day Debate this week to debate Pisco Saturday at 8 p.m. on whose policies were better, Trump's or Biden's. I said I can't do Saturday. Now, here's the thing. Are there occasional times when I could stream on Saturdays? Yes, but as frequent followers of my show know, it's very rare because at a minimum, 50% of Saturday nights I'm working. But even before my work schedule advanced, I made a promise to my family that I always try to have weekends off to spend time with my family. So once in a blue moon, I could stream on Saturdays. But it has been my rule of thumb, unless it's a ridiculous opportunity, like being on Tim Pool's show or Piers Morgan or something like that, I basically turn down all offers on Saturdays, because once I start accepting them, then it seems to other people that have offers on Saturdays, oh, I asked Rob and he said yes. So unfortunately, I was going to work that Saturday anyways. I said, sorry, man, can't do it. He says, how about Friday at 8 p.m.? I said, yeah, I do Friday at 8 p.m. I'll debate Pisco on who's better, whose policies are better, Trump's or Biden's. Sounds good. Good to go. And I don't hear anything back. And so I messaged, was like, hey, I'm trying to set my schedule. So that was, in fact, I'll give you the exact date so I can't be accused of. I'm not going to show any of the DMs, but if it was brought up and I'm accused of lying, I could show them. I said, Friday night works. I said that Monday at 10:04. And then at 10:44, I said, let me know before it go. I'm trying to set my schedule. And he said, basically, we're waiting for Pisco to respond. It was Monday. Today's Thursday. And I see this. So I'm still thinking I might be debating Friday. I might not. I don't know. No one's got back to me. I see this. Big day for Piss Corps tomorrow. That's a good name for you. 8 p.m. We'll be debating Alex Stein at Modern Day Debate. Wait a minute. I thought that's when I was debating Pisco, if he got back to them. Now, I was led to believe that the offer was accepted by me. We were waiting for Pisco to respond. That's what I was led to believe. And Pisco hadn't got back to him. No problem. That's not Modern Day Debate's fault. No problem. But then I find out that Pisco apparently did reach out to Modern Day Debate in some degree because he's debating on Modern Day Debate at the exact same time that I was supposed to be debating him, except it's against Alex Stein. Okay. Now, I predict one of two things or a combination of them happen. Alex Stein's a bigger name. I don't blame Modern Day Debate for that. Fine. Go with the bigger name. Bigger audience. Great. No problem. The other thing is, Alex Stein's an easier debate for Pisco than me. Okay. So Pisco would rather debate Alex. Modern Day Debate would rather have it be Alex because it's a bigger audience. It's all right. A little bad form to not reach out to me and say, hey, we're going in another direction so you could free up your Friday. Because I'll tell you what's going on. The reason that it perturbs me a little was we were supposed to go to Courtney's family Friday evening because Saturday they're doing their Easter with all the kids are coming and stuff. So we were going to go Friday, have dinner, and my wife was going to help get stuff ready for Saturday morning for the kids. I said, I can't go to that. I think I might have a debate that night. If Modern Day Debate at any point this week had gotten back to me and said, yeah, never mind, we've gone in a different direction, no problem. I could open up my schedule. So I see this and I'm like, wait a minute. Pisco's debating Alex Stein tomorrow at 8? I thought he never got back to Modern Day Debate. So I asked Modern Day Debate, I said, hey man, is it true that Pisco's debating Alex Stein tomorrow at 8 p.m.? Because they never reached out to me. I found out through Pisco's post. They say, sorry, we didn't update you before he posted it. He was more keen to debate Alex Stein, but said he'd be open to debate you in the future. So they're saying like, Pisco is like, you know what? Rather than Rob, I would rather debate Alex. And they were like, oh, okay, we'll reach out to him. So I did a little investigation and I asked Pisco. I said, quick question. You don't have to answer if you don't like. How did you get the debate with Alex with the Modern Day Debate tomorrow? When did you confirm? They reached out to me a few days ago and asked if I would debate you in that time slot and then said they were waiting for you to reply. He says, Modern Day Debate sent me a message asking if I wanted to debate Stein, and I said yes. They also said you, and I said in the future, I would be willing to debate you too. But Stein equals novel and big and first, so they offered, so I agreed to that first. So he's making it sound like they approached him with the offer to debate Alex Stein in that same time slot before me. But they never told me, hey man, you're a backup. I think that fucking sucks is what I think from Modern Day Debate. That's what I think. I think that they could have been a little more transparent with me so that I could have planned out my Friday. I'm not upset that I don't have the debate. I'm not upset that they're getting someone with a bigger audience than me. That's all groovy. I don't begrudge any of that. Heck, they could have reached out to me 2 hours before and said, Rob, listen, if you want to do the debate, you still can. But actually, Alex Stein wants to do it, and he's a bigger audience. We'd really like that. I said, no problem. But you couldn't have taken a moment to just message me? You made it sound like, oh man, we're just waiting on Pisco to get back to us about you. You didn't say we approached him with multiple debates and he'll choose the one he wants. That sucks. That's how I feel. And I got to be honest, I'm sort of tired of being drug around in this space. I'm sort of tired of it, if I'm honest with you. I'm tired of doing favors for other people, but I ain't ever getting any favors. The only person that's ever really like helped me out that's a bigger streamer is like Andrew Wilson. So that's fine. No problem. No hard feelings, but I'll remember. I got a big memory. So maybe I do get bigger someday. And then maybe all of a sudden I became a desirable name. That's fine. I'll remember that. I just don't think that's very professional. I don't. Nothing against Alex Stein, nothing against Pisco, but I'll remember that that's how I was treated. I sat here, and again, I didn't even find out until Pisco put publicly. They didn't even take the time to message me and say, hey, by the way, I had to see it publicly. Oh, I guess I'm not debating tomorrow at 8. And this was after I messaged them and said, hey, I need to know. I'm trying to set my schedule. I don't know. But I was a little perturbed about that. And then I thought what was going to happen was this dude wouldn't call in today. And that he did call in, to his credit. But he had messaged me. It was supposed to be yesterday. And he was like, hey, man, can we put it off? When are you going to be streaming again? And I was like, how about tomorrow? He's like, okay. So I was going to be really perturbed if it was like, okay, I was supposed to have a debate tomorrow. That canceled. Then I'm supposed to have a debate tonight and that canceled. So glad it didn't go that way. Thank you so much, Spiro, for $5. Says, I mean, if you want to debate programming, happy to help you out and have you on my stream. I would happily come on your stream. No problem. Again, don't take my criticism here of being, oh, they went with a bigger name than me. And I don't mind that at all. Even if an hour before, whatever, they would have said, hey, can we go with the bigger name? Of course. But it's just the whole, I don't know how good I would be on whatever. I don't really want to argue with OnlyFans girls. I didn't like my performance when I argued with that Jasmine girl. Not that I thought my arguments were incorrect. I could have done better, but I don't really want to insult and mock OnlyFans girls. I don't know. It's not my style. Mr. B, thanks for the $20. Says, love you, Rob, and I agree. You shouldn't take any of that. I will give a bit of constructive pushback, though. You claim that Andrew is the only one who treated you fairly, yet you completely slandered his marital argument. Oh, yes. Let's talk about that today. I do not think that I slandered his marital argument, right? First off, at worst, you could say I misinterpreted what he was trying to say. That's different than screwing people all over behind the scenes, etc. So the worst criticism you could make of me is that if you legitimately think that I'm looking at Andrew Wilson's argument, I know that he thinks exactly what the people that are defending him think, and that I'm intentionally misrepresenting it. I don't know how to explain to you. Why would I do that? What's my motivation to do that to Andrew? I have no motivation, right? My interpretation of Andrew's argument was you do the R word to your wife. It seems now that the clarification is you could assault your wife, but you can't do the R word to her. I don't understand how that's much better for that type of argument. And the argument is we're of one body, and so therefore the one body always consents. But if it always consents sexually, why wouldn't it always consent in other physical endeavors? So I still don't understand the argument. And even still, even if we somehow accept that there's a difference, that no, if a guy, kids, please leave the room. I'll take 10 seconds, right? All right. So if a guy penetrates a woman against her will and you're not married, that's the R word. But if you are married, then it's assault, but not the R word. But why would we want a legal system that enshrines that? Because the punishment for the R word is far more stringent than the punishment for assault. If I punch a guy at the bar, that's assault. Mr. B for $10 says, thank you again. Perhaps I misspoke. Slandered is a negative word. I want to say misunderstood. However, such a topic, it makes him look bad. Just some constructive pushback from a fan of both of you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Grid for $20 says, here's a couple bucks, Rob. Whenever you're ready, drop me a link and let's chat, man. You want to talk now? We can. I'll bring you up. So I still have problems with the way that people are claiming. Here's the link to the StreamYard. With people, the way people are saying, no. It's just Andrew saying you can't R-word them, but you can still assault them. I don't understand the inference, the different, and it still gets back to this fundamental idea of perpetual consent because you're one flesh. I disagree. Right, and why would I agree with everything he says? Now, I understand that it could, quote, make Andrew look bad. Maybe. So, Andrew routinely goes at me about gay marriage. That could make me look bad. And I think if Andrew is now clarifying his argument, good. That's great. That will make him look less bad that he's clarifying his argument. So, what's up, Grid? How you doing?
Hey, my man, what's up?
Not much. Just winding down here tonight. Having a good time. Though it is like a bajillion degrees for once up in my office here. I gotta get the air conditioner running, but what's up, my man?
Dude, I just got finished debating over at Wick's panel and wrecked him.
Him or the whole panel?
I mean, he is kind of
He
the
is-
panel.
Right.
You've been there, right?
Yeah. Hey, Stank Jesus, thanks for the $5. Says just showing some love to the channel. Stay solid, bro. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
guys, get those super chats up, man. Rob needs some love.
Thank you. Wick is another person that because of my last interaction there, I won't do his panels anymore. But
Sure.
I wish him no ill. I don't. So I thought it was cool he got to do Joe Rogan's. A friend of mine, maybe a mutual acquaintance, Drone Tech.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a good guy. He may be getting an opportunity. I hope I'm not breaking anything I'm not supposed to, but he may be getting an opportunity to be on there. I heard it used to be Doobie was helping out with Tim Pool. I think now it's Prime K's, I heard.
Yeah, it is Prime. And Prime actually, so I was supposed to be on Tim Pool like last week, but I couldn't make the argument they wanted me to make in good faith. So
What they want you to argue?
They wanted me to argue that the Carmelo Anthony stabbing of of Metcalf was self-defense, and I can't make that argument.
I wouldn't have went on to talk about that topic in any way, to be honest. Gizmo, thanks for the $2. Says keep doing whatever it is you do. Thank you. It's a good way to put it too. Yeah, I mean the problem is I think that there's certainly things I could speak about that, right? There is It speaks to a broader conversation about, like, for example, I think one of the most shameful moments in our legal system outside of like politics was the acquittal of O.J. Simpson, where you basically had one of the jurists admit this was our payback for Rodney King. Like, that's insane. That's insane. You're like, I believe this guy murdered a white chick, but that's okay because of Rodney King. Like, what? Yeah. And there was a lot of that. I think you're seeing a lot of that mentality here where it's like, it's just some white kid that got in.
I agree with you. And the thing is like the amount of cope that is going into the amount of cope that's going into defending Carmelo's actions is insane. Like, it's absolutely absurd. I can't believe it. Like, I mean, there are people like he had no duty to retreat. And I'm like, well, neither did Metcalf.
Right. Galileo for $10 says, keep it up, bud. We're going places. Thank you.
Damn right.
Mr. B for $5 says, tell Grid to stop ducking Millionaire Patch. Just kidding, Grid. Love your content too. Thank you, Mr. B.
You know what happened there, right?
I don't even know who that is. Millionaire.
Oh, so this guy was, and I happened to be there from the beginning. So this guy who calls himself Millionaire Bachelor was trying to start a beef with Andrew to grow his channel. The guy had like no followers, and he's just a fucking nobody.
Yeah.
And he's not a good content creator. The important part of the story is he's not a good content creator.
Okay.
And so he's tried to start all of this drama, and he, the unfortunate part for him was I caught him on the Raging Tomato one night when she was doing like a open panel kind of deal, Rage-a-thon or what, I don't know what the fuck it was, and I was and she was interviewing him, and I heard him like contradict himself like 3 or 4 times, and he acted like he was like this millionaire guy, and he started talking about real estate, how to buy real estate, and how he made all this, and dude, I tore him apart for like a solid hour. He rage quit like 3 or 4 times, and he'd come back. Sarah would soothe him and bring him back, and then I would just cook his ass again. And it was just like 1, 2, 3, and he would just rage quit over and over.
I know
And-
some people in my audience are like, "Yeah, we saw this." This is good.
Yeah, and it was just so bad that now if I'm on a channel, he will not go there. If he's on a channel and I pop on, he is gone before I see him. Because it's just so brutal.
I gotta pause here for a second.
Yeah, go get all the super chats. man.
Nico for $200. My goodness, thank you so much. $200 gives you enough of a chat to block out my ugly mug. Thank you so much, Nico. Your support is always appreciated. It says Rob is 100% fair and admits when he's incorrect. He is a consistent broken record. Rob is a great weirdo. I've seen Rob go on channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 panelists and destroy them. When he was done, he wrecked the moderator too. Why? Because Rob's a goddamn gentleman. Team Rob 100%. Thank you, Nico. I really appreciate it. That's an incredibly insane amount of money to send me. I really appreciate it. Listen, obviously the money is great. The people that send money are better than those that don't in every way. You all suck. It's much appreciated. But and I'm sure
but he's right though. He's right.
Me, I've talked about this before, right? Like for me, like most of the people in my world where I live would probably agree with me politically. They just don't talk politics. They're just like, whatever, dude. Like we got other things going on. So the other world that I'm in was this sort of debate sphere in college, and I had all these friends from that world that are all lefties. Like all of them despised Donald Trump. I still maintain friendships with most of them, but you start to wonder sometimes, like when you're seeing things, like, is it just me, right? Like, am I weird, right? When I watch during the pandemic, for example, when they said, you can't get the virus if you're out there for Black Lives Matter, but you can if you go to Sturgis. You can if you go to the Trump rally. Oh, right. Herman Cain, he got it at the Trump rally. Oh, haha, he's dead.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, one of the things that's cathartic about this channel, it's not that I'm looking for an echo chamber. It's that I like that I could see people that are like, we at least understand where you're coming from. We could see that there's other people that are looking at things in different ways, because sometimes it gets a little bleak when you don't have anyone to talk to, and everyone that's talking to you about politics is coming from this left side. And it's not that they're dumb. Some of these people I know, it's insane. And these are smart
what was really
people.
insane about the pandemic is that what do we find out now? It's like a 99.3% survival rate. And they were telling us about, hospitals overcrowded and morgues full to capacity. And I've heard your story about your brother breaking his collarbone, and things like that happened all the time. Like I had a kid in that period of time. And instead of my son and my mom and her mom and her dad, and instead of all his family being there while she's giving birth to our son, it was me. That's it. Like, it was crazy, man. Like, it was absolutely nuts. And I was just like, there's no way that this is the right thing to do. There's just no way.
So like to talk about these numbers a little, do you know what the average lifespan is in the United States?
Isn't that like 80 years now?
78 some change years old, right? You know what the average COVID death was? 81.5.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. It was
so
all
the average death from COVID was beyond the average life expectancy. And I mean, it's that sort of thing. Like, again, there's multiple ways to look at this. Every death is tragic. If it's your dad, if it's your grandma or grandpa, of course that sucks. I don't care if they die at 80 or die at 90 or die at 100. It sucks. I would never belittle that. And whatever the disease or the car accident or whatever it is that kills them, absolutely, I can understand being concerned with. But we shut down the working age population. We demonized them. I was reading someone's post that was like, I think it was Michael Malice. He was like, remember the weird, like 2 weeks period of time where we were absolutely sure that if you got COVID, it was your fault. But if you got monkeypox, it wasn't. You remember that? You remember when it was like, oh, this, sexually transmitted disease, by the way, we're all supposed to be locked down, but for some reason, this STD is going through the roof, right? Predominantly in the gay community, but don't you dare ask them to curb their orgies. Don't ask that. That would be too far.
That's one of my favorite arguments, Rob.
You can't go to school,
One of my favorite arguments to make when people start talking about the pandemic is how we, the guy that made the entire uproar, the entire ruckus, is the same guy that screamed the exact same rhetoric over AIDS.
Yeah,
HIV.
Fauci. Yeah.
Yeah, Fauci. He's the exact same thing.
Well, that's
That was
like,
my wife calling me, Rob. I'm going to have to dip in just a few minutes,
Okay.
but I wanted to come up.
Sure.
Look, the modern day debate thing, man. James is, it's not that he's scatterbrained, but he just has so much going on. And I think he really is trying to do like 90% of it himself. And I just don't think he has any, and I don't know. There's something about, because, I had to do a debate Saturday morning because Andrew couldn't make it. He was tired and he just couldn't perform during the debate, whatever, at 8 o'clock in the morning, which, he was up half the night streaming. So why would he? Why would you expect that? And, but I filled in. I think I did okay. I don't know. I don't normally argue religion, but I want modern day debate to be better, but it's just like, it's rough, right? It's rough around the edges. It's like they got really big and they don't know how to deal with it.
well, here's the thing, right? The stories are different, right? I'll talk about all that in a second, but I'm tired of looking at myself as second fiddle. How about that? I'm tired, so if I'm going to be the backup plan, like, you know what, kiss my ass. That's part of it'd be fine if you admitted that, right? But then it's like, so, okay, let's see what happens. So Monday, the offer's proffered. I couldn't do the initial time slot. No problem. We say about doing Friday. Fine. I make it clear, hey, the sooner I know, the better, because I have family plan. Well, I didn't say family plans, but I was trying to form a schedule. He's like, oh, if you can't do it, no problem. Just let us know. But I didn't respond to that because I figured, well, they know my position. They'll let me know as soon as they can. Right. And then when I see it publicly, now Pisco's debating Alex Stein. It's like, okay, like, fine. I'm like, hey, what's up with this? Is this true? And they're like, oh, yeah, basically it's like the implications like, well, he just got back to us and we didn't have time to respond to you. Okay, maybe that's true. But Pisco's story doesn't sound like that to me. Pisco's story is they offered, do you want to debate Alex Stein or Rob Knorr? And I said, sure, I'll do Alex. It didn't sound like he just got back to them today. It sounded like his implication was when they reached out to me, I got back to them. So what day was that? Monday too? How many days did they know? Hey, we have this debate booked. I don't know. And it's not the biggest deal in the world, but what it is it's this constant, and it's modern day debates happens to just be the group, I guess, that my ire was towards today.
Right.
Situation. Yeah. But the point is this, I'm tired of like always bending over backwards to do all these shows, whether it be small no-name streamers, small panels that I've gone on, etc. Right. And then it's like, I get treated like dirt by anyone with slightly more pull than me. And that's fine. Like, that's absolutely fine. I don't care. I like Alex. I think that's great for Alex to debate Pisco.
I like Alex a lot.
Everybody knows what that debate's going to be. Everybody knows that's going to be Pisco spurging out and Alex being funny. That's fine. If that's what the debate, that's no problem. They don't have a bigger eyeballs on it than it would have been me versus Pisco. No problem, right? The thing that gets me, though, is that I'm constantly like the errand boy. I'm the second fiddle. Oh, yeah, we forgot to get back to you, whatever. Hey, man, I got a life, too. That's all I'm saying. So, hey, man, all I'm saying is in the future, when opportunities come my way, I don't care if it's a smaller channel. If that conflicts with modern day debates, I'm going to go with that smaller channel because I'll remember this. That's all I'm saying.
I get it, man. I get it.
I'm just saying, right? That like, if that's how you're going to treat people, if it was a mistake, oh my goodness, my bad. Here's fine, great, whatever. But I'm sick and tired of it. I'm just tired of that sort of, I'll tell you what I want to do and what I'm considering doing. And by the way, I'm not going to talk a lot about this because it's private, but if my work situation changes, which it may, one of the things I'm going to do is start a debate channel, like where I'm going to moderate, and I'll treat people with respect. And that's what I'm going to do. And if that means I'm directly competing with places like Wick and modern day debate, so be it. That's the way it'll be. But I'm sick and tired that Andrew's idea from all those years back that was like, dude, stop going on these platforms. Stop going to the left-wing platforms. They're garbage. They need you more than them, right? The only place other than Andrew that I would have said was outside of that scope was modern day debate. And if I'm going to get treated like rubbish from them, even if it was an accident, then I think twice, like maybe there's room in this space for me. Maybe I'll get in this space. And even though I don't like moderating, I like debating more. I could still probably be a little more respectful than that. I'm not going to double book people and then be, oh, we didn't know. Well, who's lying, Pisco or James? right?
Yeah.
Pisco's saying like, hey, they offered me both of the debates simultaneously. James is making it sound like, well, Pisco requested Alex. Why, if he offered both simultaneously, why wouldn't he say, listen, we offered Pisco 2 debates. We'll see if he picks you. Why would you offer him 2? Why didn't they offer me 2? Is Pisco better than me? We'll offer this dude 2? Whatever. It's just, they want me to be second fiddle. They need me to fill in, man. That's cool. I got other things to do. That's all I'm saying.
So I think that, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but again, first of all, I think that you're one of the better debaters out there. I loved your debate with Fatty the other night. I haven't watched all of it because I had some stuff going on too. I've been debating a lot, dude.
I know you have, yeah.
Crazy. And the matter of fact, I'm doing Monday. Well, so Saturday night I have my debate show where it's kind of like the verbal combat format or the Fight Club format. I started that just because I wanted to, and then Monday night I'm debating with Pentuple and against
he's a good guy. Like
two weird people. So and we're going to be talking about Doge and if Doge is effective or not.
Real quick, Raymond Hessel, thank you so much for the $5. Says Rob is the only streamer that constantly brings up the May 30th insurrection. Yeah, thank you. He says thank you for that. Yes, I do bring that up all the time because it highlights once more the double standard from everyone that complains about January 6th, but more importantly, from our politicians and media people and how they treat things. They were perfectly fine with that insurrection.
And the buildings actually burned and stuff. So that was it's important.
I mean, it was just a guard. It was a maintenance shed that they turned into a guard station, but nonetheless, that's more than happened on January 6th as far as building. But I mean, now I appreciate listen, I would do the modern day debate Nashville thing for you.
Yeah.
I would do that. If they still want me. I don't know though, man. Maybe I'll fly down there and they'll say, you know what? Alex Stein decided he's going to take this debate instead of you. So maybe that's what they'll say, right? Because that makes me feel real good for scheduling that,
Rob, I'm actually really surprised that you don't network with Alex and some, because you've debated Destiny so many times and you've just beat him into the dirt pretty much every time, and and I'm really surprised that you're not networking with those guys.
I have Alex's number. But here's the problem: I don't network with anyone because of my work situation. So Alex, every election year, does my 24-hour stream, and he's came on my stream a couple times. He said that someday I could do his show, and I'll reach out to him someday. But the problem is, what happens is people like Alex and you and Andrew, it's crazy. You guys are doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And Alex is like flying all over the place and doing all this crazy stuff. So what happens, he'll be like, yeah, man, we'll hook up, we'll do a show. But then his world is insane for the next 3 months. And so it's not like intentional.
Mine's not. Anytime you want to do a show or you get a debate and you need a moderator or something, dude, I'm your man. I'll help you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's the same way with Andrew, right? Where it's like Andrew, you'll see, I don't know how he does it. You'll see him on Piers Morgan, then he'll be like in person at whatever, and then he's debating some feminist, like he'll be doing 2-3 a day. Then you see Rachel's out there debating people and stuff. And it's like, I don't know how they keep their life like when are they just relaxing with family?
It's pretty rough, yeah.
So Andrew, every once in a while, I'll talk to him behind the scenes. We'll just shoot the shit for 20 minutes, and he'll be like, yeah, we got to do some projects together. And I'm like, yeah. And then I've been, I'm no better, although my stuff's not streaming related, it's work related. So it's just been sort of crazy. We're trying to get this debate review show off the ground, me and my editor Black Elk, and it's been crazy. He had some stuff going on far less length than my stuff, but then ever since then my stuff's been crazy. And let's get this one. Another new account. Thank you for the $5. Says shout out to Grid for his debate earlier on Wick. Despite the interruptions and ad hoc against him, you and Rob should tag team lefties in a panel. I would love to do that. We should set up.
Man,
the problem is, where do you go? I ain't going to Wick. I ain't doing that. So it'd have to be someone else that's hosting debates. I could do
we'll set that up. Rob, I'm gonna have to go, man. Dude, I really like everything about your show and your personality and everything. And I don't want you to lose heart, man. I know you're feeling a little beat up right now, and you're probably a little pent up. You want to debate somebody, and you want to debate somebody quality, right?
Correct.
And
that's why I liked that debate with Adam last week. It was good.
Yeah. I'm having a great time debating all of these guys, and some of them are, I'm punching out of my weight class on a few of them, but I do all right.
I think you
But
did fine.
anytime, man, anytime you want to come on the channel, come on. Anytime you want to, if you have a debate and you need a moderator and you want somebody that's not gonna be that guy, I'm a reasonably decent moderator. So
Thank
I'm not gonna say that I'm a pro by any aspect, but you know,
we'll talk. And I know we used to do a debate show here where I would just debate one-on-one with people, and my friend Aftershock used to moderate. So maybe we'll set up some things.
Yeah,
and get some people to
anytime, man.
debate. So I appreciate it, man. But thanks for coming on. I
I
do.
do have to go. My wife's gonna be really angry with me.
All right,
so
we'll see
I
you,
gotta
man.
go.
Take it easy,
Everyone
Grit.
to the chat, give Rob more money. You are not sending in super chats fast enough. Please help this man out. We'll talk
Thank
to
you.
you
I
guys
appreciate
later.
it. Take it easy. Blasterbot, thanks so much for the $20. Money for Hank's Dino Fund, because Iguanodon is neat. He is neat. Yeah, I see. Listen, I'll talk about this before I leave. Like, listen, it may be inevitable that I become a full-time streamer here in the near future. I'll talk about it when that bridge comes. That is not an option right now. Even if I wanted to make that decision, my hands are tied. Without getting into too many details, someone that I deeply care about, that I've worked with, really needs me right now. And so I couldn't leave now if I wanted to, until we have some sort of resolution, hopefully a positive resolution. Oh my goodness. How do I pronounce this? Cat, with just ox and zo after XO, or OX cat XO. Thank you so much, Cat says. Here's money, $50. Thank you, Cat. I really appreciate it. I really do. What? Yeah, like a boss. Totally agree. But it's difficult for me to make that decision because I have priorities. I have so many friends. I've talked about this in the past. I have so many friends that were like, I'm a great musician. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go on the road and play in this band. I totally respect that until you have kids. And then it's like, you have priorities, man. It's not time to quit on a wing and a prayer. What happens if I quit my job and the week after I quit my job and I'm like, I'm going to full-time stream. The first week it's going good. I get $2,000 in super chats and then I get banned from YouTube. Now, I know a lot of people like, we'd follow you to Rumble, but would most people? And then what do I tell my wife and my son when we can't pay the mortgage at the end of the month? What do I say to them? Well, I thought I could do it. So it's difficult to make that. And I do know people, the aforementioned Drone Tech. I'm not going to talk a lot about Drone Tech's life. It's his story to tell. But Drone Tech was a guy who had a successful career. He's married, right? He has kids. And he's making so much money on YouTube circa 2016, 2017. He makes the financial decision. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a full-time streamer and provide for my family. And then what happens? He gets demonetized on YouTube almost immediately. To this day, he's never reached the highs that he once had. And his content's, in my opinion, better than it ever has been. But he can't reach it. The algorithm doesn't like him. He's constantly getting demonetized. And all of his stuff, none of it's like super risque, like calls to violence or racism. He's literally focuses on pointing out the hypocrisy of the mainstream media. Is it any wonder that places like YouTube demonetized him? Seeing as how they prioritize those voices in the mainstream media. Cat, I got it. We got you. It's not Ox Cat XO. It's just Cat. Thank you. Health insurance and stuff as well. Yeah. And I know, listen, it's like, I'll give you an example. One of my favorite streamers is a guy that none of you have ever heard of. His name is Ginger GM. He is a chess streamer from the UK. I think he's hilarious. I love watching him play chess. He's very good. He's a grandmaster, but he's not like the best in the world, which I think is more admirable, because I don't want to watch Magnus Carlsen every night just crush people. I want to watch a guy that when he wins the tournament, it's a big deal, you know? And I think he's hilarious. I would love for Ginger GM to be live streaming like 6 hours a day. And I'd be like, this is great. But instead, I basically get one video a week. And I always see people are like, oh, why don't you put more videos out? Do more. And it's like, well, sometimes it's not in the cards. Selfishly, I would love for him to stream more. So I get it when people are like, Rob, I wish you would do more. I think if I could do this full time, that I would have guests. And I have the capability to get good guests from the political world, like actual congressmen. You've seen me have my congressman, the most senior Republican, Glenn Thompson's been on my show multiple times. Dan Muser is a congressman out of District 2, I believe, here in Pennsylvania. State level politicians I've had on, other guests that are pretty cool. The great Phil Kerpen, who's in my opinion, one of the best journalists that was covering the pandemic. So I have the ability to get good guests. I just don't have time. And I think that I also, as good as I am at debate, almost all of my debate is zero preparation. Like I did not prepare at all for this debate tonight. How much better would it have been if I had those clips available and knew, or when I'm debating, right? Like people that I think are more competitive that I actually like the CHIPS Act, if I had all the facts right in front of me, and had time to research this stuff like the full-time left-wing streamers do. And if I was pressuring Piers Morgan every day and had a team that was pressuring him and I could show, look at the 10 debates I did in the past 2 weeks. Yeah, I think that my channel could grow. But it's difficult to jump in with both feet while I'm still having to provide for my family. Like I said, that may be what happens anyways through no choice of mine. I'll keep you all posted on that. Thomas O'Brien, thank you so much. Gifts 20 memberships. Thank you. I appreciate it. One last thing I'll say before I go. The gentleman that called in, I keep forgetting what he asked me to call him. But it was Joe Over was his X name. He made a snarky comment to me in X before this debate about Rob GPT using Chat GPT. Do you think after that shellacking I gave him, do you think he thinks I used AI the whole time? What do you think? You think he's like, Rob GPT? Is that what happened? I think it's a good display. I recommend anyone who came in late to go back and watch today's episode, talking to sort of a Destiny defender, to just see what I'm talking about with like the double standards, how it's employed, and like the accusation. I mean, again, people just say things about you. And let's be fair. I'm not saying no one on my side doesn't do that, but I've always tried to be fair and even-handed. Like, how many times did I defend Destiny? I still do on many instances, But I had people tell me from the first day I ever debated Destiny, like, oh man, this guy's a scumbag. And one time he threatened to off this kid that was doing a DDoS attack. And did you hear what he said about this guy? And did you hear what he? And I was like, whatever. It's just my interactions with him that I'm concerned with. So most of my commentary on Destiny has to do with my interactions with him. I'm not saying I didn't comment on some of the questions of the allegations against him with this consent issue, but other than that, and even then, I remarkably, to the chagrin of much of my audience, defended him after the heinous statements he made about the assassination of Trump and the firefighter that was killed. But when he's going to come out and, oh, you're blacklisted because 2.5 hours previously in the debate, you used AI and you didn't tell me immediately, it waited 3 minutes and you bully AI and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. Then you can blacklist me. And then when I see him making comments on X about you're fascist adjacent, sorry, I've personally heard you say stuff that is far more fascist adjacent. So, and I hope that it comes across to people like, right out of the gate, he comes in with a little bit of attitude, this guy today, and he's like, oh, I've seen from your past, streams, I've watched you misrepresent people. I'm like, give me an example. Where's the example of me misrepresenting? And he can't do it. He's basically forced to be like, well, here's the thing. That one time on that one space, you said Destiny said riot was the other side of the coin and voting. Yes, he did say that. Yeah, but your tone, the words you chose to relay that message, and you can see right out of the gate, it's like, okay, then what's your criticism again? Just tone policing? And you can see, like, well, Trump, he calls for violence, violent rhetoric. Like, he called Kamala Harris a fascist. But that's literally what you and Destiny are calling Trump, and you're saying that Asmongold's fascist adjacent. So if it's a call for violence for Trump to say it, why not you? It's just, Anyways, it was a fun stream this evening. I'm going to go downstairs where the air conditioning's running. This is nice, though. Maybe I'll lose some weight. It's like a sauna up here. Maybe just sit up here, do like some 24-hour streams. Just say you're like, oh, wait a minute, next. Let me get some more water. But no, you guys are the best. I have the best audience. I really appreciate you all. I really do. Look, maybe I shouldn't have aired that laundry about modern day debates. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. I don't know. It was on my mind when I was coming up here, though. I still don't know. I debated not saying anything about it, but I don't know. I said it, so I'll stand by it. All right. Thank you all. We should see you tomorrow at some point. I don't know what time I'll be streaming tomorrow, But we'll do a call-in show. How's that sound? Now that my Friday night's free, maybe I'll just stream here Friday night since I'm already told my in-laws that I can't come to their house. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. Thank you so much to everyone that donated. You guys are incredible. You really are. We'll see you all soon. And as always, have a good one.